The Radiance of Pokémon wisdom. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201 Strike Badge. Okay, now that we are done, let's do some warm-up exercises after dinner. Let's have an exciting Pokémon showdown. 2-on-2. RC stood in front of ZHIHUI and said with a passionate look on his face, "Okay, I'll play a Lucario." ZHIHUI said, "Lucario? Fighting Pokémon. Those who can use fighting Pokémon are real men. I like it. Come on, my first Pokémon is Frog," RC said passionately. A Pokéball was thrown, and a huge bipedal Pokémon appeared. Frog, look carefully, that's the trainer's frog. It's also very strong, especially in fighting. You have to learn it well. Zyraksha looked at her frog and said, unlike in the animation, because of ZHIHUI's water stone, it has now evolved. Okay, Frog, take the initiative and use a series of slaps, RC shouted. As soon as the voice fell, Frog immediately attacked, and the right hand slapped quickly. Lucario, dodge, use the power-up punch, ZHIHUI said calmly. Lucario witnessed Frog's attack and was extremely calm. When Zahu gave the order, he immediately turned his head to avoid Frog's first attack, and then punched Frog in the stomach, knocking him out. Frog's subsequent attacks were completely useless. At the beginning, let's fight head on. But this is what a real man should do. Frog, use Hell Roll, RC shouted. Frog immediately ran quickly, grabbed Lucario, and was about to roll. Lucario, hold on, and then close combat will follow, Zahu said. Lucario rushed forward quickly, easily broke free from Frog's fight, and then in an instant, burst out dozens of punches, knocking Frog to the ground. Young man, you are so strong. I admire you. At this time, although RC lost a Pokémon, he was still very excited and said passionately, as if the loss was not his own Pokémon. Zahu's forehead was covered with cold sweat. Why did he feel that this gym trainer was so unreliable? Next, Guri, come out. RC threw his Pokéball and said, Guri. Zahu raised his eyebrows. Just looking at this momentum, he was more than a little stronger than the Guri of Genzo Ryu who had sprained his waist, but it felt just average. Lucario, let's start a simple battle. Use the fighting skills trained in Genzo Ryu to the fullest, Zahu said. Lucario heard Zahu's words and used all the fighting skills he had trained, one enhanced punch left and one enhanced punch after another. Okay, the battle should be so passionate, Guri. We don't need any skills, just fight. Fight with all our heart and soul, RC shouted. Then Zahu and RC completely withdrew from the stage, leaving the battle to Haoli and Lucario. The two Pokémon fought fiercely, back and forth, and in the end Lucario was slightly better, knocking out with one punch, and proudly posed in a handsome pose. I'm so moved. I haven't seen such a hearty battle in a long time. This is how Pokémon battles should be. RC suddenly looked moved, and his eyes almost shed tears. Zahu felt a chill, feeling that he couldn't keep up with RC's train of thought, swallowed his saliva and said, next, it's time to give me the badge. Yes, the strike badge, for you. I believe that you will achieve extraordinary achievements in the future for someone who can give me such a wonderful battle, RC said. Thank you for your kind words, Zahu said politely. But next, my brother also wants to fight. Do you have other Pokémon? Yes, don't worry, it's no problem. Even if it doesn't work, I can also go on the field to fight Pokémon, RC said. Okay. Zahu smiled awkwardly. What are you talking about? Why, I don't understand anything. Or are those who specialize in fighting Pokémon not normal in their brains? Sibber is like this, running to the mountains alone every day for extreme training, and when he encounters any powerful fighting Pokémon, he will go up and fight it by himself. But this one is even more outrageous. If I specialize in Lucario, will I also become mentally retarded? With a nervous heart, Zahu returned to the audience seats to watch Zyraz's duel. Then the duel was also very simple. The two hot-blooded men fought passionately, and all kinds of hot-blooded and second-year words were constantly played out. In the end, it ended with Zyraz's victory. Then, RC and his wife enthusiastically sent Zahu and others to the port. RC's wife was very grateful to Zahu and Zaozi, saying that RC had been lacking in exercise recently and his stomach muscles were a little loose. Now that he lost, it was a good time to train again. Okay, let's go. Zahu said goodbye to RC and the others, then Kona, Zahu, Zyachiro, and Meowth got on the Dragonite, and Zaozi, Zylaksha, and Zyanogang got on Zylaksha's Gyarados, and then headed towards the Whirlpool Islands. Beautiful sea, Zylaksha, the master of water Pokémon, here I come. As soon as they arrived at the sea and saw the vast sea, Zylaksha became uncontrollably excited and felt that the blood in her body was boiling. Zylaksha, when did you become a master of water Pokémon? Zylaksha shouted inappropriately. The future is not possible. Zylaksha retorted. Zylaksha shrugged and said nothing more. Zahu was amused, and it was also interesting to listen to the two guys bickering. Okay, get ready. We are almost at the sea area of the Whirlpool Islands. There are many whirlpools here, so it is named after them. If you are not careful, you may fall into the whirlpool. Kona told Zahu and the others about the Whirlpool Islands. Zahu and his companions nodded and patiently listened to everything about the Whirlpool Islands. If I remember correctly, there should be a small island ahead. The weather in the Whirlpool Islands is quite changeable. Sometimes it may suddenly rain heavily, so we should go there to rest first, Kona said while patting Lang Lang. Zahu did not refuse. After traveling for so long, he can still remember some profound plots in the animation, but as for the location, sorry, he really can't remember. This is also the main reason why Zahu brought Zyozzy with him. With Zyozzy, they will definitely meet. Lang Lang and Gyarados swam slowly, but it was not known whether Kona was a bad mouth or everyone was really unlucky. Just when Zahu and his companions were getting closer and closer to the island, it suddenly rained heavily, with lightning and thunder, strong winds, and the sea level was even more turbulent. Waves rose one after another, and were about to overturn Zahu and his companions. Dragon, use the freezing beam and slide all the way over, Kona said. Dragon sang happily and burst into a breath of ice light, freezing a large area of the sea. Although the sea was still surging, it calmed down in a short moment. Brother, help me. Kona sighed. Under the powerful strength of Kona, Dragon easily broke through the danger and turned danger into safety. But Zylaksha's Gyarados did not have such strength. In the huge wind and waves, it was about to be swallowed up. Oh no, Articuno, Zapdos, and Dragonite come out to save people. Zahu threw out 3 Pokeballs at once, and the 3 Pokémon flew out at the same time. The 3 Pokémon grabbed a person and flew to one side. Okay, you find a safe place to land. When it is safe, I will release Moltres, and then we will meet up, Zahu shouted. Upon hearing this, Articuno, Zapdos, and Dragonite immediately took Zyozzy and the other 2 to a safe place. Zahu, sit tight, Dragonite is going to speed up, Kona shouted at this time. After hearing this, Zahu and the others quickly grasped the bulge on the back of the dragon, and then under Kona's command, the dragon slid quickly, passed through the whirlpool area, and finally reached a small island, and finally stopped reluctantly. The storm outside is getting stronger and stronger. It will be troublesome to go out to find Zyozzy and the others. Let's find a cave to shelter from the rain first. When the rain stops, we will go out to find Zyozzy and the others, Kona said. Zahu looked at the complicated weather outside and nodded heavily. This is the only way to deal with it. Chapter 202 Little Lugia. The storm was fierce and lasted for a long time. It took a whole night before it calmed down. When the sky was slightly bright, Zahu couldn't wait to release Moltres. Moltres flew far away and chirped from time to time. After a while, several chirping sounds came from the distance. Zahu looked far away and vaguely saw a ball of blue light and a ball of yellow light. There. Zahu's eyes lit up slightly, and he immediately sat on the dragon to swim to the direction where Articuno and Zapdos were. The dragon flew quickly and soon arrived at the location. Articuno and Zapdos in the sky saw Zahu coming and immediately landed excitedly, calling happily beside him. Okay, be good. Zahu coaxed the 2 birds, and when he saw Zyozzy and the other 2 standing well, his heart finally fell down. Although he knew that the possibility of these 3 people dying was really low, almost impossible. Especially Zyozzy, he couldn't die if anyone died. But it's better to be safe than sorry. In reality, no one has the aura of immortality of the protagonist. This is his younger brother. If he said he wasn't worried, that would be a lie. Brother, you're finally here. I met a new friend on this island. Zyozzy said to Zahu excitedly. New friend? Who is it? Are you also a traveler who came here to seek refuge? Zahu said. No, anyway, when I see you, I will be surprised. Zyozzy kept it a secret at this time. Don't tell me. Zahu raised his eyebrows. He had a vague feeling in his heart. He looked at Articuno and the others. Articuno flew ahead consciously to lead the way for Zahu. Then, not far away, next to a rock, he saw a small Lugia. The Lugia was a little shy. When he saw Zahu, he hid most of his body. This was because of Articuno. Otherwise, Zahu would not see it. Brother, this is our new friend, Lugia. He has a mother. It was his mother who saved me yesterday. Zyozzy came over and said proudly. Zahu's expression was stiff, and he suddenly didn't want to talk. Damn, is the gap between people so big? They all came together, encountered a storm, and everyone escaped separately, but Zyozzy naturally met Lugia and his son. Fuck, there is no immortal halo of the protagonist. What am I worried about? Brother. Seeing Zahu in a daze, Zyozzy called curiously. Zahu smiled awkwardly. Yes, you are Zyozzy. No matter what happens, it is natural for you to come. This is why I have to wait for you. Patting his stiff face, Zahu showed a gentle and handsome smile, and walked towards Lugia with the 3 mythical birds and Haxorus and said, hello, my name is Zahu. I'm the trainer of the 3 mythical birds and Haxorus. Can we be friends? Friend? There was a trace of confusion and curiosity in the big eyes of Lugia. Is this person the trainer of Articuno and others? It doesn't seem very special. Yes, friend. Zahu smiled. Do you understand what I say? Lugia said with shining eyes. Yes, I do. Then can you be my friend? Zahu's smile became more and more gentle, making Meowth beside him subconsciously move away, as if he had run into a wolf grandmother. Be friends, okay. The adult Meowth looked creepy, but the underage Lugia, who might still be a baby, just thought that Zahu's smile was so cute. Without thinking much, he excitedly flapped his wings and rushed towards Zahu. Zahu quickly reached out and hugged it. This Lugia was even smaller than he had imagined, and he couldn't even fly. The little Lugia, who was originally a little worried about falling to the ground, found himself falling into a warm embrace. He immediately turned from surprise to joy and smiled innocently in Zahu's arms. Zahu also smiled happily and concentrated on teasing the little Lugia. Zahu is also an old hand imp fooling Pokémon. Ninetales, Meowth, Gyarados, which one was not fooled? Now it is not easy to trick this underage Lugia. Zahu took out the Pokémon food and toys that he had carefully prepared and acted as kind as a father. He was very young and could not fight, but that was why he was easy to trick. Pokémon of this age can be easily tricked back home. Little Lugia was completely unaware of Zahu's sinister intentions and had a very enjoyable expression on his face. From birth to now, it has only been with its mother. It is full of curiosity about other Pokémon and people, and is both afraid and close to them. After feeling that Zahu was not so evil, it quickly fell into Zahu's trap. This Lugia has become familiar with me so quickly. I spent a lot of effort yesterday. Zyozzy saw the little Lugia who quickly became intimate with Zahu. Of course, the boss and I have the ability to talk directly with Pokémon. Of course, Lugia baby likes him, especially since the boss also took out the Pokémon food he carefully prepared. Meow Meow shook his head and said that he had been fooled in this way before. However, that chicken leg was really delicious. That's right. So you don't want to capture Lugia, do you? Zyozzy suddenly said. Of course, who wouldn't want to capture a legendary beast? Zyogero said as a matter of course. But the baby Lugia is too small and can't fight at all. Besides, it lives happily with its mother. Isn't it best for them to be together? Zyozzy said. Then capture both mother and child. Zyogero said. But is that good for Pokémon? As trainers, isn't it the most important thing for us to consider Pokémon? If they are the most suitable in nature, Forcing them will only make them suffer. Zyozzy said. Okay, stop arguing. You all have your own ideas. Zyozzy is right. This world is jointly owned by humans and Pokémon. As a trainer, you can't just think about yourself and only want to capture powerful Pokémon, especially legendary Pokémon. Otherwise, it is easy to destroy the ecological balance. But Kajero is also right. If you encounter a powerful Pokémon, it is better to capture it without destroying the environment. After all, taming a Pokémon can make it stronger, Kona said. After hearing Kona's speech, Zyozzy and Kajero stopped debating. Obviously, Kona has great prestige in the hearts of both of them. Zahu is still teasing little Lugia, chatting with little Lugia, and trying to fill up the favorability. Only when the favorability of little Lugia is filled up first, the next thing will be successful. Little Lugia also told Zahu everything he knew, and told him everything he knew. In a daze, he told Zahu all his details. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203, Kidnapping Little Lugia. Zyalo, don't panic, try your best to fly, I'm here below. On an unknown island, Zahu said to the little Lugia who was flapping his wings in the sky. Little Lugia didn't know what was wrong. He had been born for a while, but he still couldn't fly. Zahu, who wanted to show his value, had been working hard to train Lugia to fly. However, the effect was not very good. After more than 10 days, he only learned to glide, but couldn't fly. Zahu once suspected that it was not a flying Pokémon, but a water-type Pokémon. Because when everyone was playing, there was a swimming competition for water-type Pokémon, and the swimming speed of little Lugia was second only to Kona's Dragonite. But Lugia was just a fake sea god. The little Lugia in the sky rose up against the wind and flapped its wings hard, but when the wind direction changed, it immediately lost control, subconsciously closed its eyes, and then fell down. Zahu jumped up, skillfully hugged Lugia in his arms, and then turned over and landed steadily. It's okay, don't be afraid, be brave. It feels great to fly in the sky, just like Articuno and the others fly together. Zahu comforted little Lugia while holding him. Little Lugia raised his head cutely and saw the 3 divine birds flying freely in the sky, with 3 kinds of light flashing, ice, fire, and lightning, cheering him up. Little Lugia felt a surge of courage in his heart, nodded, and then flapped his wings hard, heading for the sky. When a headwind came, Articuno suddenly appeared in front of him, shielding him, and then took the lead in demonstrating how to fly. Little Lugia was learning happily, following behind Articuno like a tailbug, flying in a similar way, and after many bumps and bumps, he was finally able to fly freely in the sky. Little Lugia, who could fly in the sky on his own for the first time, let out a joyful cry, first dancing happily in the sky, and then flew to Zahu with joy, like a child who had achieved something, and was showing off to his parents. Great. Zahu also used a childlike tone to coax the little Lugia, and after hearing this, the little Lugia jumped with joy. Finally, you learned how to fly. Are you going to tell me? Kona came up to congratulate. Let's wait and see. There are still a few days before the Whirlpool Islands competition. Zahu said. There are still about 15 days, but it will take another day or 2 from here to the Red Rock Island, where the Whirlpool Islands competition is held. Kona said. There is still time. Let's wait. I will tell Lugia's mother in the last few days. Zahu said. Well, it's a pity that Zyozzy left, otherwise Zyozzy, who is so lucky, might be able to improve your luck by your side. Kona said. That kid just can't stay idle. He wants to travel all 4 islands of the Whirlpool Islands. Now he just arrived at the Big Popo Island yesterday. Zahu shook his head and smiled. Originally, Zahu and a few others were together. They played together and even held a Pokémon swimming competition. However, when Zahu introduced the situation of the Whirlpool Islands to them, Zyozzy couldn't help but go out for a walk. Zyarksha was very enthusiastic when she heard that there were sun corals on Huangang Island, while Zyadagang heard some nonsense about picking up girls from Zahu and couldn't help but go out to find the beauties in the Whirlpool Islands to try it out. So the three of them left, after staying here for a few days. After all, none of the three of them had any ideas about Lugia, and there was nothing else special on the island. There was nothing to gain by staying, so it was better to go out. Kid, you just need to explore. There's nothing wrong with seeing the scenery outside. The Popo and the Big Popo Island is also a unique scenery here. Ordinary people can't enter. Kona said. That's what I said, but the Big Popo Island is protected by a special climate, so the Popo have no natural enemies. As a result, they have become fatter than pigs, and can't even fly. When I first saw them, I thought they were broilers specially raised by someone. There is no positive energy at all, so I can only visit them. Zahu said. That's true. Do wanted to capture a special Pidgeot at first, but he found that the Pidgeots couldn't fly at all. He, the flying master, could only go back in disgrace. Kona smiled and nodded. Okay, let's continue practicing flying, little Lugia. Zahu stretched out his hand to tease Lugia's chin. Lugia smiled happily and flew into the sky. Then the three sacred birds also accompanied him. With Kona's 5 flying birds flew freely in the sky. Just like this, after 10 days, Zahu and his friends finally reached the point where they had to leave. That night, Lugia's mother flew back from the ocean and brought seaweed and other food to feed little Lugia. And Zahu also formally said goodbye to Lugia's mother at this time. After hearing this, Lugia's mother's first reaction was surprise. When she first saw Zahu, she was full of hostility. Only after the comfort of little Lugia did she stop being hostile. Then, after getting along for more than half a month, she got used to Zahu's existence and Zahu taking care of little Lugia. Mother Lugia is also very busy. She is the patron saint of this sea area. Whenever someone falls into the water and is in distress, she will appear at the first time to rescue him. She is kind, but because of this, she has less time to take care of little Lugia. However, when Zahu was leaving, Mother Lugia had no reason to refuse and said goodbye to Zahu politely. But little Lugia was different. When he heard that Zahu and the three sacred birds who had been taking care of him and playing with him were leaving, little Lugia hugged Zahu's trouser legs tightly with his wings, unwilling to let Zahu go. Don't you want me to leave? Zahu looked at little Lugia and said. Little Lugia nodded his head frantically and said in Elvish that he didn't want Zahu to leave. He became excited and even had tears in his eyes. Seeing this, Zahu was also very soft-hearted. Although he had been trying to win the favor of little Lugia these days, after these days of getting along, he really liked this little Lugia. He gently picked it up and said, I want to be with you, but I also want to travel and become stronger. Little Lugia didn't listen and started crying. Lugia's mother was overwhelmed when she saw this. Seeing this, Zahu finally showed a trace of embarrassment and said, how about, let me be the trainer of little Lugia, let me take it out to travel. Hearing Zahu's words, Lugia, who was originally still having a headache, immediately took little Lugia away, protected it behind him, and said to Zahu with a defensive face, is this your true purpose? Humans want to capture us? Don't even think about it. It's not about capturing, but becoming each other's partners, and becoming stronger together, just like my other Pokémon, becoming stronger together. Zahu said, I will teach it. Lugia's mother said, but if I train it, it will become stronger, right? Humans can make Pokémon stronger, just like I taught it to fly and learn other skills in the few days I spent here. Zahu said seriously. After teaching Lugia to fly, he continued to train Lugia's other skills, and finally successfully taught Lugia its first skill in its Pokémon career. Although this skill is quite different, it is neither psychic nor flying, but water surfing. But this is not important. What is important is that Zahu taught Lugia its first Pokémon skill. Hearing Zahu's words, Lugia's mother showed a slight hesitation, then still refused. I will teach it in the future. It will follow me and learn the most suitable moves for it. Then it will grow up and go to a sea area to be the guardian god. You are not Lugia and you don't know how to better train Lugia. Not being Lugia doesn't mean that you can't train Lugia well. Just like humans are not Pokémon, but can cultivate very strong Pokémon. Zahu said seriously, I know you are strong, but you are not the strongest among Lugia, right? Believe me, cultivate him for me, he will become the strongest Lugia, and together with my 3 legendary birds, he will replace the current Lugia in the 3 legendary birds, and become the next god of the sea, god of ice, god of fire, and god of thunder. Lugia's mother's eyes turned sharp, and swept across Zahu like a sharp knife. Zahu had a clear conscience, and looked at Lugia's mother confidently. Although he wanted to subdue Lugia, he would not hurt Lugia. If Lugia's mother disagreed, he would give up, and would not do anything else. He would even help Lugia and his mother hide better to avoid being discovered by Team Rocket like in the animation. After staring at each other for a long time, Lugia's mother said in Elvish, "If you beat me, you can take me away. If you lose, you go alone." Zahu raised the corner of his mouth. It's done. Chapter 204. Battle against Lugia. After making an agreement with Zahu, Lugia mother flapped her wings and flew high into the sky. Her wide wings spread out, covering the sky and the sun. The originally calm weather changed with it, and dark clouds rolled in, lightning and thunder roared. Zahu's eyes changed slightly. Although the strength of this Lugia was not as good as that of the sea god Lugia on Asia Island, it was definitely at the level of a top king, or a champion main force. In the animation, Team Rocket also used little Lugia to catch it. "Articuno, let's have a good fight," Zahu said. Facing this Lugia, Moltres and Zapdos did not have a perfect chance of winning. Only the super evolved Articuno could suppress it. Articuno flapped its wings, and ice and snow flew, and it actually snatched part of the weather control from Lugia. Lugia mother's eyes showed a trace of surprise. She did not expect Zahu's Articuno to snatch the weather control from it, but soon she became more determined to fight. In this case, perhaps the trainer was really capable. With a flap of its wings, Lugia mother took the lead in launching an attack, and a strong whirlwind blew towards Articuno. Zahu closed his eyes at this moment, and had a heart-to-heart with Articuno. A strange power was born between one person and one pet. The ice and snow around Articuno became stronger, and the whole bird was wrapped in ice and snow. When it broke through the ice, it was already in its super evolved form. Lugia mother saw Articuno in this form for the first time, and was full of surprise, but she continued to attack. With the vibration of her wings, a strong tornado blew towards Articuno. Lugia is born with the ability to control weather and airflow. According to legend, if Lugia flaps its wings suddenly, it will cause a storm that lasts for 40 days. Lugia mother is not so outrageously strong, but her attack power is equally good. Zahu, who had already merged with Articuno's mind, skipped the step of issuing orders. At this moment, he was Articuno, and they shared vision. His wings fluttered, and he first performed the usual attack of Ice Dance and Divine Bird, and rushed towards Lugia at a high speed. The wind was fierce, but it could only blow away some of the ice and snow protective shield around Articuno, and there was no other redundant effect. Articuno hit Lugia strongly, and Lugia's mother cried out in pain, flapping her wings vigorously to keep her balance and not fall. However, Lugia's mother had just kept her balance when Articuno's steel wings chopped off her head and knocked Lugia's mother into the sea in one breath. Then, Zahu and Articuno waited patiently for Lugia's mother to come up. With Lugia's strength, he would never fall down after just 2 attacks. Not to mention his identity as a divine beast, his powerful double defense was very telling. Many people think that Lugia is a flying and psychic type, and they subconsciously think that Lugia is a high speed and high attack type. In fact, the high speed is good, but it is definitely not a high attack type. In fact, its innate racial value of defense is much higher than that of Snorlax, and it can almost be said to be a meat shield. This is why Zahu didn't just use Absolute Zero to kill Lugia in 1 second, for fear of an accident or something. Zahu's consciousness merged with Articuno, and flew over the sea, but Lugia's mother was slow to fly up, and he couldn't help but frown, wondering what Lugia's mother was planning. After waiting for a long time, before Lugia's mother flew out, the originally calm sea surface suddenly formed a huge whirlpool. Before Zahu could react, he was sucked in by a strong cyclone. The urgent pressure came, and Zahu felt uncomfortable. Bond Evolution, a legendary evolution, not only does not require the use of Mega Evolution Stones, but also allows Pokémon to connect with each other in battle and better command the battle. But there are pros and cons. Sharing senses will certainly allow Zahu to know the specific state of Articuno, and even fight on behalf of Articuno to better seize the opportunity, but it will also pass on the feeling of pain to the trainer. Just like in the Yu-Gi-Oh game, the trainer is no longer just a bystander. RHUI. What kind of attack is this? Why is it so strong? Articuno asked Zahu in his heart. Cyclone attack, Lugia's exclusive move. Let's rush out first. Zahu replied. Fortunately, the two of them are in sync at this moment. It takes a long time to describe it, but in fact, it takes only a moment for each other to think and communicate. Otherwise, if they use their mouths to ask and answer, it will take a lot of time. Zahu controls Articuno, and powerful power gathers around him. His wings shine directly, and he uses steel wings. Then his wings cut through the vortex, leave the sea, and fly into the sky. But this time, it is Lugia's mother's turn to wait for it to attack. With a flap of his wings, he slashes 2 air slashes and hits Articuno. Zahu felt the pain and endured the damage together with Articuno. His whole heart gradually turned to ice, and he became calmer. As he fell, a freezing ray spurted out of his mouth, hitting Lugia's mother's forehead. Lugia's mother didn't expect Articuno to be able to attack at this time, so she was hit head on and felt great pain. Articuno's body fell rapidly, and just when it was about to fall into the sea, Articuno's wings slapped hard against the sea surface, and it turned sideways, using the force to quickly fly up. Then a light blue light flashed around its body, and it rushed towards Lugia's mother unstoppably. Lugia's mother was hit directly, and was washed away, and her body fell towards the sea surface. Zahu controlled Articuno to fly into the sky, and then suddenly sprayed out a freezing ray, taking the lead, and hitting the sea surface. A large area of the sea surface immediately froze into a thick layer of ice, and Lugia fell heavily on the ice with a painful expression. Zahu, who had learned his lesson once, would naturally not let Lugia fall into the sea again. In that case, not only would Lugia use the buoyancy of the seawater to relieve the force of the Articuno, but it could also use the air vortex to counterattack, which would be very disadvantageous to Articuno. The sky is the stage that Articuno is best at. Its wings vibrate, and a blizzard attack is launched. Lugia is in even more pain. The dual attributes of superpower and flying double the damage when it is attacked by ice. The huge wings gradually freeze, and Lugia is getting more and more seriously hurt. However, the pride of a first level beast and the responsibility of a mother make it unwilling to lose to Articuno so easily. It gritted its teeth and let out a long cry. The thunder in the sky became louder, and a thick yellow lightning bolt fell down, falling straight towards Articuno. Thunder. Articuno immediately appeared on a layer of crystal light like a mirror. Thunder fell on it, and although it was slightly painful, it soon reflected the lightning, and fell on Lugia below. Lugia cried out in pain, and lost his ability to fight. After the battle, Zahu opened his eyes, released the bond with Articuno, and said to Kona, "Help to heal Lugia's mother. Go, Hippopotamus, heal the wave." Kona threw Hippopotamus's Pokeball. Hippopotamus appeared on the ice with a silly face, tilted his head to look at the injured Lugia, stepped lightly on the ground, and a gentle wave of power emanated from his body, spreading throughout Lugia's mother's body. A gentle power covered in Lugia's mother, and soon, Lugia's mother was able to stand up. "Sorry, I was a little heavy," Zahu said. "It's okay, only with such strength can I be completely relieved. You can cultivate Articuno so well, you will be a very powerful trainer, and the child is in your hands." Lugia's mother said, "Don't worry, I will take good care of it, and I will definitely surprise you when we meet next time," Zahu said. Lugia's mother nodded slightly and told little Lugia about the matter. Although little Lugia was very happy that he could go out and play with Zahu, he started crying again when he thought about leaving his only relative. He didn't want to leave. At this time, it was Lugia's mother who drove Lugia away in a stern tone. Wild Pokémon can enjoy the protection of their parents when they are young, but when they reach a certain age, they will be driven away by their parents to survive alone and develop powerful skills. Now Zahu's arrival has only brought this time point forward. In the end, little Lugia still went with Zahu, and in Zahu's arms, he went to meet a new future. Chapter 205 Goodbye Love Rival. Registration for the Whirlpool Islands tournament has been successful. The preliminaries will be held the day after tomorrow. After passing 2 rounds of preliminaries, you can participate in the official competition in a week. Then you can win 4 more games and become the water hero. In the registration hall, Kona flipped through the rules of the Whirlpool Islands tournament. Then I can get the mysterious water drop. Zahu said. Don't be too confident. There are many masters participating in the Whirlpool Islands tournament. Gyarados hasn't arrived yet, and there is only one Golduck. Are you sure you can beat it all the way? Kona said. No problem. Although that duck has a bad personality, its strength is indeed rising fast. After being almost made a fool by Mewtwo, its psychic ability has risen to another level. If calculated by psychic ability, it is already at the level of a king. Zahu smiled bitterly. He really didn't know if the attributes of the 2 Pokémon Golduck and Lugia were wrong. Golduck is a pure water type Pokémon. Its strongest move is the psychic type move, and it has advanced to the level of a king with its extraordinary psychic ability. Then, Lugia, who has psychic and flying, has only learned water type moves so far, and has not learned any psychic type moves yet. But I don't know if it's because of this reason. The 2 Pokémon are very close. Golduck, the lustful duck who has always been interested in beautiful women, is willing to be Lugia's babysitter. The first move that Lugia learned in his life was taught by Golduck. Your Golduck is more like a psychic Pokémon than a water Pokémon. Thinking of Golduck, Kona couldn't help but smile. But at least it's still a water Pokémon in name. It's so fun to play with Lugia now. Zahu said. The one who presides over the Whirlpool Islands competition here is the priest mayor. I know her. It's not right if I don't say hello to her when I'm here. Are you going? Kona said. No, this kind of courtesy is boring, and I still need to train Lugia. Speaking of which, the people of the Whirlpool Islands believe in Lugia, and the mayor priests are dedicated to Lugia. As a result, Lugia is not allowed to participate in the water type Pokémon competition. It really doesn't make sense. Zahu said. Lugia is the god of the sea, but he doesn't have water attributes. You stay here to let the Pokémon get familiar with the environment here. I'll go say hello to the priest first. Kona smiled, and then walked inside. Zahu shrugged indifferently, and prepared to train his water type Pokémon. Suddenly, he saw a group of people gathered on one side, and there were occasional exclamations. What kind of Pokémon is this? Is it also a water type? So cool. Yes, it has such a cool temperament. What kind of powerful Pokémon is this? Yes, whose Pokémon is this? There is no information in the Pokédex. A Pokémon that is not in the Pokédex? Zahu was curious. If the Pokédex of the trainer who was traveling did not have it, then the Pokémon was most likely not from the Kanto and Johto regions. He also walked over curiously and found that it was a dark blue bipedal Pokémon with a cool face, as if it was a ninja. Brother, you are here too. Do you know what kind of Pokémon this is? Zyozzy suddenly shouted. The one who said that it was not in the Pokédex was him. What kind of Pokémon is it? Zahu looked at Zyozzy with a strange expression and said, Greninja, Kalos region, the final evolution of Bubble Frog among the 3 initial Pokémon that new trainers will get, with both water and evil attributes. Kalos region, Greninja, it looks so cool. Zyozzy said. Yes, it is handsome. Zahu nodded and smiled, but in his heart he thought, it looks handsome, but it is still far behind the one you will have in the future. Zyozzy's version of Greninja is considered by some people to be the strongest fighter under Zyozzy. Although many people are dissatisfied with this title and say that they are all frog fans, the strength of Greninja is also recognized, and it is definitely worthy of the title of Zyozzy's Kalos leader. A strong body, full of strength, proud eyes, full of confidence, such a powerful Pokémon. Why is it a Pokémon that can only be found in the Kalos region? I want it too. Zyraksha looked at Greninja with loving eyes and said, okay, Zyozzy and Zyraksha, calm down. This Pokémon has an owner, which means that it is very likely that he is the enemy you met this time. Zyargang, who has no preference for water Pokémon, analyzed very rationally. That's right, but who is the trainer of this Pokémon? Is he from the Kalos region? Zyraksha asked curiously. Zahu was also a little curious. He remembered that, when he watched the Whirlpool Islands tournament, he didn't see Greninja appear. Feeling strange, Greninja suddenly jumped to a young man in the distance. Obviously, that young man was the trainer of Greninja. Everyone's eyes were attracted to it, wanting to see which trainer would have such a special Pokémon like Greninja. Under the gaze of everyone, the trainer was calm and just comforted Greninja. Obviously, his psychological quality was very good. Until he accidentally saw Zahu. The calm expression on his face turned gloomy and angry. He looked straight at Zahu and said, "I didn't expect to see you here first. Huh? Do you know me? Have we met before?" Zahu's expression was surprised. This trainer seemed a little familiar. "Have you seen him somewhere before? Arsehole." The trainer cursed angrily. "I'm Shinde from the Pokémon school. Oh, I remember, it was you." Zahu suddenly realized. Shinde was his former love rival, right? They had competed in the Pokémon school competition. Of course, calling him a love rival is actually a bit of a compliment, because Kona only regarded him as a passerby and had no feelings for him at all. At that time, in the finals of the Pokémon school, Shinde's Charizard was beaten by Zahu's Ninetales, and then Shinde dropped out of school and seemed to have gone traveling. So Zahu didn't have a deep impression of him, just a supporting role. When in Wakaba Town, Kenji told Zahu that Shinde would come back to duel with him, and he just listened, but he didn't expect to meet him here. "You are also here to participate in the water Pokémon competition. Very good. I will avenge my previous shame and let Senior Kona know who is the real strong one," Shinde said. "Ah, you beat me, show it." Zahu looked at Shinde with a pitiful expression. This guy's brain is a bit worthless. Not to mention his strength, just this train of thought. He lost the game, and then went out in anger to gain experience, strengthen his strength, and when he becomes stronger, he will come back, to get his lover back. The style of a lone hero, but haven't you heard of this saying? Win the game, lose the lover. Even if Zahu's strength is really weaker than Shinde, you ran away for 5 years, and you didn't come out during these 5 years. You thought that you could get your lover back by winning a game? Brain dead. How many young couples can't resist long distance relationships? What's more, you are a supporting role whose name is not even remembered by Kona. Poor kid. Kajiro said with pity. You should come back a few years later. Meow Meow also expressed sympathy. If you come back a year later, the boss's children will be out. What do you think you are doing? Chapter 206. The competition begins. Dear audience friends, those standing below are all the contestants who have passed the preliminary round this time. They will also compete in the next competition. Who will win the championship and become the warrior of the sea? Let's wait and see. Now, please invite the great god's priest, Miss Maya, to speak. In the Solomon Sacred Arena of the Whirlpool Islands competition, an enthusiastic voice sounded, trying to mobilize everyone's emotions. Zahu stood below and listened calmly. The Whirlpool Islands preliminary competition was divided into 4 areas, A, B, C, D, and you could enter the current official competition after winning 2 games. The players encountered in the preliminaries were generally not strong. Perhaps it was because too many locals participated. In short, there were more amateurs than professional players. One player even sent out a Pokémon like the horned goldfish. He still wanted to enter the competition. He used the newly captured crocodile to win 2 games in a row and entered the official competition. Zahu looked around boredly. This arena seemed to be a temple for worshipping the sea god in the past. Compared with ordinary arenas, it was more sacred. Perhaps it was for this reason that little Lugia was very happy after coming here. He lowered his head to think about something and suddenly saw countless blue lights emanating from the stage. Zahu looked up in surprise and saw the well-dressed priestess Miss Mare on the stage, holding up a scepter. On the top of the scepter, there was a blue strange gem, flashing with strange power, transmitting it to all the contestants. Sea Soul Gem. Zahu looked up. The legendary scepter that can be used to communicate with the god of the sea has strange power, and it is indeed not fake. It's a pity that it is the inheritance of the temple and cannot be used for a search. In the guest seats on one side of the stage, the little Lugia in Kona's arms also felt this strange power and cutely poked out a head. Kona smiled and flicked its little head, and the little Lugia cutely retracted its head. Kona was amused. Taking care of a baby Pokémon always feels like taking care of your own child. Touching the little Lugia, Kona smiled slightly, and it seemed that having a little baby was really good. Mayor, the priest, looked in the direction of Kona curiously. Is that the sea god? Did Miss Kona subdue the sea god? However, the ceremony was still going on, and Mayor, the priest, obviously could not ask, and could only wait for the ceremony to end. But when the ceremony was over, Kona joined Zahu and his group to study the Pokémon to be used next, leaving Miss Mayor empty-handed. Are you ready for the Pokémon to be used next? Kona looked at Zahu, Zyozzy, and Zyarksha. Of course, he asked this question, but he was mainly asking Zyozzy because Zahu only had one water Pokémon in his hand, and Zyarksha must have Gyarados and Milotic. As for Zyozzy, Kona didn't know what Pokémon he would use. No problem, I have called both Crab and Squirtle from Professor Oak. I will definitely win this game. Zyozzy said excitedly. Don't come on, the one who will win this game must be me, the future water Pokémon master. This game is specially designed for me. Zyarksha retorted. No way, I will win. Zyozzy said without giving in. Zahu rolled his eyes and patted the two little guys on the head and said, you haven't even played yet, but you want to be the champion. You two are still far from being strong enough. This time, the championship is mine. Brother, I may not lose to you if I only use water Pokémon. Squirtle wants to avenge you for losing it on the Orange Islands. Zyozzy said. It's been so long, and you still hold a grudge. You little abbot are not very kind. Zahu laughed. Whether you are kind or not, we'll talk about it later. Let's go to the schedule of the competition first. Kona said. That's right. Zahu nodded and took Zyozzy and the others to the schedule. They found that Zyozzy will play this afternoon, and Zyarksha and Zahu will play tomorrow morning and afternoon respectively. It seems that we have to see your performance first, Zyozzy. Remember not to even fail to enter the first round. Zahu said. Don't worry, brother, I will definitely meet you in the finals. Zyozzy said confidently. I hope so. Zahu smiled slightly and waited until the afternoon before watching Zyozzy's game with Kona. Zyozzy's opponent is Thornbill, so this battle is a bit disadvantageous. Kona frowned as she looked at Zyozzy's opponent's Pokémon. Indeed, it has both water and dragon attributes, and 4 times the water resistance, but for Zyozzy, it's better to be disadvantaged. If it's too favorable, this guy will easily become arrogant. Zahu said. You are right. Zyozzy becomes stronger when facing strong opponents, and he always has a flash of inspiration when facing crisis. If he wasn't easily proud every time he won, his strength would be stronger than it is now, and he might be able to participate in the King Candidate competition. Kona said. The Quasi-King Candidate competition? That's too far away. This kid still needs a lot of training. Zahu said. With both water and dragon attributes, brother Zahu, sister Kona, Thornbill is a very strong existence among water-type Pokémon, right? Zyarksha suddenly said. Yes, with dual attributes of water and dragon, it is a powerful water-type Pokémon not only in Kanto and Johto, but also in the whole world. Zyarksha, I remember you have a black seahorse, right? You can evolve it. Zahu said. But the black seahorse needs to stay in a large pool for a long time, and it is not suitable for long distance travel with me. I'd better wait until I go home and stop traveling before training it. Zyarksha said after thinking for a while. That's right, the safety of Pokémon is the most important. Zahu nodded and praised Zyarksha's behavior. Boss, look, Zyozzy's little crocodile is dancing on the water column. Meow. Meow suddenly called. Zahu heard it and immediately looked at the venue. On the venue, the Thorn Dragon King sprayed a spiral water cannon, but the little crocodile actually ran directly on the water column and then hit the Thorn Dragon King hard, and then the Thorn Dragon King completely escaped into the water and did not come out. It turns out that having a small Pokémon has this benefit. Kajiro sighed. If it was Crocodile's final evolution, Crocodile, he would have to withstand this move head on, and he couldn't turn the opponent's attack into an auxiliary attack like Crocodile. Zyozzy's ability to respond to emergencies is perfect. You should learn from this. If you don't want Growlithe to evolve, you have to make Growlithe powerful. In this regard, Zyozzy can really be your master. Zahu said. Really? Kajiro said in disbelief. He was Zyles' theoretical teacher. Could it be that this student is going to surpass him now? Just wait and see. This is the match where Zyles he will show off his skills. Zahu said calmly. Zyles he would definitely not fail to make it to the first round of the competition. While he was talking, the competition on the field still started. The opponent seized the opportunity to let the Thorn Dragon King jump out of the water and then use the water cannon to attack. As a result, Zyles he seized the opportunity to attack and let the small saw crocodile bite the Thorn Dragon King's mouth. As a result, all the water accumulated in the Thorn Dragon King expanded in its body. When the small saw crocodile let go, the Thorn Dragon King was hit by its own water column and finally knocked out by the small saw crocodile. Can you still fight like this? Kajiro said in a daze. Yes. People who are hot-blooded, brainless, and impulsive usually have very accurate intuition, so they are good at catching fighters. This is a talent, but you can cultivate it through repeated battles. Your strength really needs to be improved, otherwise after arriving at home, even if you pass the preliminary review of the gorgeous competition, you will not be able to pass the next duel. Zahu said. Okay. Kajiro bowed his head. That's right, boss. On the other side, the guy called Shinde also won the first round with Greninja. Meow Meow said. Oh. Zahu nodded calmly. After all, he had been traveling for 5 years and had fought in leagues such as Kanto, Hone, Sinnoh, Unova, and Kalos. It was normal for him to win the first round. It would be strange if he couldn't win. Chapter 207 Golduck's Stage, Gyarados returns. Next is the 7th match of Zone A, Zahu from Pallet Town vs. Anew from Kingayan Island. The referee sounded. Zahu stepped onto the stage and threw out the Golduck first. The Golduck jumped lightly on the floating board on the water and then posed in a series of bodybuilding poses. After being beaten by Mewtwo, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise and successfully entered the king. So after a long silence, it ushered in further flirting. My Pokémon is this, the electric monster. The opponent Anew threw out a strange fish that was blue all over, except for the eyes, which were yellow. A long wire grew on the top of its head, and there were 2 light bulbs, one large and one small. The electric monster, the evolution of the lanternfish, has both water and electricity attributes. Zahu's mind went through all the information about the electric monster. The electric monster used the electric ball. Anew gave the order preemptively. A yellow round electric ball quickly condensed on the top of the electric monster's head and smashed it fiercely at the Golduck. Gothorduck, surf directly. Zahu's order was not slow at all. Gothorduck laughed strangely, and a huge wave rose under his feet, covering the sky and the earth, and heading towards the electric monster. The electric ball of the electric monster had almost no effect on the huge wave. Electric monster, don't be afraid, just rush up and use 100,000 volts. Anew shouted. Hearing the order of the master, the electric monster jumped up fearlessly and rushed into the huge wave as enthusiastically and strongly as a carp leaping over the dragon gate. The huge water pressure of Gothorduck did not seem to cause any harm to it at all, but made it more energetic. Then, a strong electric current was released from the 2 light bulbs on the top of its head and flowed into Gothorduck's body through the water. Gothorduck felt numb all over, stomped his feet suddenly, and shook off the huge waves under his feet. He quickly retreated and distanced himself from the electric monster, and then looked at the electric monster with a strange face. What kind of Pokémon is this? It's not afraid of my waves. Water storage characteristic? Zahu frowned slightly. The electric monster has 3 characteristics in total: electricity storage, light emission, and water storage. Among them, the water storage characteristic means that when attacked by water, it will not be hurt, but will recover its physical strength. Yes, it is the water storage characteristic. In a stage where only water type Pokémon can fight, my electric monster is invincible. Anew said proudly. Invincible? Zahu raised his eyebrows and did not agree with Awu's words, but he had to admit that Awu's electric monster was really advantageous in the water type Pokémon competition. No wonder he could easily enter the first round. Electric attacks double the restraint of water type, and the water storage characteristic can absorb the opponent's attacks. If the strength gap is not big, it is basically invincible. However, for his water type Golduck, The weakest attack power is a water type trick. Gotha Duck, use telekinesis. Zahu said. Gotha Duck gave Zahu a thumbs up, and then his lazy eyes revealed a stern look. He pointed a finger at the electric monster and gently lifted it up. The electric monster was uncontrollably brought out of the water. Then Gotha Duck used telekinesis to violently smash the electric monster on the floating board. The terrifying telekinesis was like a blade, and the electric monster immediately lost all its combat capabilities and lay on the floating board like a salted fish. Zahu's Gotha Duck used super telekinesis to kill Abu's electric monster in one move. It's really too strong. He is worthy of being the former champion of the Quartz Conference. Like the Quartz Conference, the Whirlpool Islands competition is also equipped with professional commentators. After all, many spectators cannot see the specific situation of the game due to various vision problems. It's just that the commentator didn't expect Zahu to act so quickly and kill it in one move. You know, Abu's electric monster is the favorite of this competition. However, as an excellent commentator, he can always find the reason for any phenomenon. It is not easy to say that Abu is weak, so he just praises Zahu for being strong. Sure enough, after hearing the commentator's explanation, the audience around burst into passionate cheers. Zahu took back the Golduck without caring. One game a day. After today's game, there are still several days to play. Walk to the hall and wait for the second round of the list to appear. After here, the battle will use 2 Pokémon. After waiting for a while, all the games were over, and the list of the second round of games also appeared. Unexpectedly, Zahu played against Zyraksha, and Zyrazi played against Shinde. My opponent is brother Zahu? Zyraksha looked desperate. Don't be like this. I don't know when my Gyarados will come. If it comes late, maybe you can beat me 2-4-1. Zahu smiled. Really? Zyraksha's eyes lit up. 1 against 1. I don't have confidence, but 2-4-1, maybe it can be done. You really want to take advantage? Zahu saw this and shook his head and laughed. You want to become a master of water Pokémon. When you meet an opponent, you should attack him head on. You have no future if you always think of taking shortcuts. But it's too difficult to beat Zahu, brother. Zyraksha whispered. This is a direct fight against the 4 Heavenly Kings. If she had this level, she would just go home and continue to open a gym. That's why we have to fight. Brother, wait until I beat Shinde. I will come to compete with you. Unlike Zyraksha's fear, Zyrazi said excitedly. If you want to beat me, travel for a few more years. Shinde suddenly came from the side and said. If I can beat you, I can beat you too. Zyrazi said unconvinced. With you, you little sore crocodile who can only show off. Wait until you evolve into a powerful crocodile before challenging me. Shinde didn't care and said to Zahu, I'll wait for you in the finals. Don't let me down. After that, Shinde walked away coolly again. What is this guy doing here? Is he trying to show off his superiority or to show off in front of you? Zahu looked at Kona and said, not to me, but to you. Kona said, what do you mean? I'm not into male homosexuality. Zahu said, what nonsense are you talking about? He regards you as a strong rival. He must have been chasing you for the past 5 years. In his heart, you should be more important than me. Kona laughed. There are so many people chasing me. There are 6 people chasing me, including Zyrazi, Zyroshi, and Shinji's 3 younger brothers, Yuji from the Orange Islands, and Kenji from Wakaba Town. If you add Shingo, there will be 6 people. If there is one more person like him, I will be annoyed. Zahu said indifferently. Don't be too careless. After all, he is also a person who has traveled to various regions. You should find your Gyarados quickly. Otherwise, Golduck may not be able to cope with 1 against 2. Kona said. It should be soon. I'll go to the beach and wait. Zahu smiled and walked towards the beach. When it was getting dark, two loud roars suddenly came from the sea. Zahu raised his mouth and asked the 3 bads to lead the way. Soon, 2 huge Gyarados that were much stronger than ordinary Gyarados came to Zahu. The larger one rubbed Zahu with its huge head happily when it saw Zahu. Okay, you are not a child anymore. Don't act like a child. Zahu touched the big head of Gyarados, but Gyarados still didn't care and licked Zahu's face with its big tongue. It was Zahu who raised it, since it was a child. Although he forgot about the trainer after he had a wife, Zehu was still very important in his heart. Now that he saw Zehu, how could he control himself? Zehu had no choice but to let it drool all over his face. He knocked on its big head in annoyance, but when he saw the aggrieved look of Gyarados, he couldn't help laughing again. It was so nice that this silly guy was still like this after not seeing it for so long. I only asked you to come here alone, but you brought your wife with you. Zehu smiled and looked at the other Gyarados and said, you evolved too, that's great. The other Gyarados nodded affectionately. Obviously Zehu's Gyarados had often introduced it to Zehu. Well, with you here, the next game is a sure thing, Zehu said, touching his own Gyarados' head. Chapter 208 Zyraksha's Growth. Zehu and Zyraksha's match was scheduled in the morning, and it was the first match in the morning, so they went out early and stood in each other's position. Zyraksha, fight with all your strength. Let me see how much you have grown during this period of time, Zehu said. You don't need to tell me, brother Zehu, I will do it too. My first Pokémon is Milotic. Come out, my blue sweetheart. Zyraksha threw Milotic's Pokéball and said, you sound more and more like Zyromeo's old tone. If you go to Hone, you can also try to participate in the gorgeous competition, Zehu said. I was thinking of trying it too, to show the charming charm of the water Pokémon in front of everyone, Zyraksha said. Zehu nodded and released his Golduck. Golduck still appeared coquettishly. Seeing that the opponent on the opposite side was Zyraksha, the action he posed was even more coquettish, showing Zyraksha a love you gesture. Golduck, it's you after all. Wait a moment, be merciful. Zyraksha waved to Golduck excitedly. Gotha Golduck responded with certainty and made a handsome gesture towards Zyraksha, without considering Zehu, the trainer, and countless viewers. The commentator didn't know what to say next when he heard this. Zehu rolled his eyes. This damn duck, it needs to be dealt with again. Okay, Milotic, use charm, Zyraksha said. Milotic's slender body danced gently in the water, and an illusory heart hit Golduck's body. Golduck's momentum, which was not good to begin with, became even lower. His eyes were full of love, looking at the Milotic in front of him. No matter how he looked at it, it was so beautiful. In an instant, his fighting spirit relaxed. Seeing Golduck's performance, Zehu secretly cried out in his heart, damn it, Zyraksha actually used a tactic specifically targeting Golduck, and hurriedly shouted, Gotha, wake up quickly, use telekinesis. Golduck heard Zehu's order, but hesitated in his heart. Did he really want to attack this beautiful and cute Milotic? No, if I do that, my conscience will hurt. So, Golduck didn't obey Zehu's order, but stood there in a daze, motionless. Yes, that's it, Milotic, use a few more charms, Zyraksha said excitedly. Milotic faithfully followed Zyraksha's instructions and kept flirting. Golduck was confused, and his expression became more and more obsessed when looking at Milotic, and finally he almost looked like a pervert, while Zehu looked a little desperate. What's the matter? Why didn't Golduck obey my brother's order? Zyros, he said with a strange look on his face. Because Milotic's charm will make the opponent's Pokémon fall into a state of fascination, and the success rate of using special moves of Pokémon that fall into a state of fascination is only 50%. Kojiro explained while flipping through the book. No, it's 100%. Kona retorted. Huh, but the book says 50%? Kojiro asked curiously. Your analysis is pure data analysis. In fact, the power of charm depends on the individual perseverance of the Pokémon. If a Pokémon does not desire love, then charm will have no effect on it. But if it desires a partner, then charm will be 100%. This girl, Misty, specifically targeted Zehu's Golduck. If they fight head-on, Milotic and Gyarados may not be Golduck's opponents, but if charm is used, Zehu will lose this game. Kona laughed. Ah, I'm going to lose to Misty? Zyros, he looked unbelievable. Yes, so you have to grow up well, and don't let your girlfriend surpass you. Kona laughed. Misty is not my girlfriend, Zyros, he explained, and continued to stare at the battle, hoping for any changes. Misty, use hypnosis next, Zyraksha said in high spirits to pursue the victory. Mincheo immediately stopped flirting, and instead emitted strange light waves. Golduck was even more intoxicated. It fell to the ground with a thud, revealing an intoxicated and happy expression. This wonderful feeling, I must be dreaming, so let's do it a little longer. It's done, Brother Zahu, I won this round. Zyraksha said proudly. Mean Sheo, use the destruction death beam continuously. The golden light condensed in Mean Sheo's mouth, and then the powerful beam hit Golduck head on. Golduck was knocked out, and hit the stone pillar on the side. It was all black, but even so, it did not wake up. Soon after, Zyraksha attacked with another destruction death beam, which completely eliminated Golduck. It floated on the water without the ability to fight. Zyraksha's Mean Sheo is really powerful. A series of combined attacks made Zahu's Golduck lose its ability to fight without any chance to fight back. Next, how should our Zahu deal with it? The commentator shouted excitedly. Zahu looked at the Golduck floating on the water with a numb face, thinking in his heart, you guy, I told you so many times that lust is a knife above your head, but you didn't listen. Okay, you were calculated. You surrendered with a charming look from others. You are dreaming so beautifully. 2 consecutive destruction death beams didn't wake you up. Brother Zahu, keep going. My Milotic is very strong. For your Pokémon, I have designed a lot of tactics. Zyraksha said proudly. Yes, you have really grown a lot. Although he lost a game and was unhappy, Zahu still affirmed Zyraksha's efforts. He didn't expect that his first defeat in this competition would be harvested by Zyraksha. Golduck's strength is almost all round, crushing Milotic, especially the powerful superpowers. If it is not in a charming state, even if it is hit by hypnosis, it will not necessarily fall into a coma. But Zyraksha really found a weakness that has nothing to do with the ability of Pokémon, but is related to personality. Lustful duck. Because he was pestering a beautiful woman, he was sure that he was a man. Then he knew that his own Milotica was a woman, so he used the charm, a trick that not many people usually pay attention to seize the opportunity of victory. Milotic's hypnosis cannot hypnotize Golduck in a normal state. If Golduck is willing to be hypnotized, that's another matter. Apart from its ridiculously powerful superpowers, Golduck's body's defense ability is not particularly outstanding, so 2 destructive death rays solved it. It's easy to infer the process from the result, but it's not easy to come up with such a method to restrain Golduck by relying on one's own efforts. Zahu found that Zyraksha, who had never paid much attention to her strength, had really grown up. But next, you won't have such good luck. Gyarados will appear. Zahu threw out a huge Gyarados and said. As soon as Gyarados appeared in the venue, its huge body occupied half of the venue, and then roared. Sound waves rolled, and Milotic subconsciously revealed a trace of fear. Zahu's next Pokémon is actually Gyarados, but is this Gyarados too big? Can Zyraksha handle it? The commentator's voice sounded again. Means, don't be afraid. Brother Zahu's Gyarados is also a male. Use charm. Zyraksha shouted. Means felt relieved after hearing this, and gave him a charming look. Gyarados, bite it to pieces. Zahu said calmly. Gyarados roared, ignoring Mean's charming look, opened its mouth and bit most of Mean Sheo's body. Mean Sheo was in great pain. Water cannon. Gyarados accumulated a powerful water column in its mouth, which burst violently and sprayed out, spraying Mean Sheo onto a stone pillar on the side. Mean Sheo fainted and slid down in a daze. Come back, Milotic. You've worked hard. Zyraksha took Milotic back, then looked at Zahu in confusion and said, Brother Zahu, isn't your Gyarados also a male? Why is it ignoring charming? Because this is a Gyarados with a wife. For his wife, he even lost me. How could he be tempted by other Pokémon? In addition, your Milotic is too small to be his partner. Zahu explained. In fact, there is another reason. That is, Zahu's bond with Gyarados is much higher than that with Golduck. He doesn't have enough bond with Golduck, so he couldn't wake it up in the last round. If it was Gyarados that was charming, he could wake it up. But Zahu didn't have enough bond with Pokémon, so of course he wouldn't say it himself. We've got 1 round back. Next, it's a double dragon showdown between my brother's Gyarados and Zyraksha's Gyarados. Zyros, he said. That's right, but when Zahu took out Gyarados, the outcome was no longer in doubt, and there was not much value in watching. On the contrary, you will have match with Shinde next. So you should prepare well, because Shinde is not weak. Kona said. Zyozzy nodded, indicating that he understood. The next result was also as Kona predicted. Although Zyraksha did a lot of homework, it was useless in front of Zahu's Gyarados. She was just crushed, and came back with a lonely face. Fortunately, the two little angels Pikachu and GP comforted her cutely, and Zyraksha quickly recovered and watched the next match between Zyozzy and Shinde. Chapter 209 Zyozzy's Battle. Squirtle, let's go together. Zyozzy threw out Squirtle. Squirtle, Squirtle. Squirtle called innocently. The bond between the first generation of the 3 starter Pokémon and Zyozzy was top notch. They were good partners who shared life and death. If there was a specific intimacy value, it would definitely be the maximum level. Even if they hadn't seen each other for a while, they were very familiar with each other as soon as they met. Squirtle? You dare to send out such a weak Pokémon? You are really lucky to have made it here. Greninja, let it know the true strength of water Pokémon. Shinde looked at Zyozzy's Squirtle, shook her head in disdain, and threw out Greninja directly. Greninja stood on the floating board, crossed her arms, and had a cold expression on her face. She had the same personality as her master, and looked down on Zyozzy's Squirtle. Greninja, use Water Wave to get rid of that weak Pokémon. Shinde ordered disdainfully, not wanting to spend too much time on such a weak Pokémon as Squirtle. Hearing this, a crystal blue water ball quickly condensed in his hands. Squirtle, use the water gun. Zyozzy also gave the order. Squirtle was the first to arrive, and quickly sprayed the water gun. A thick stream of water spurted out of its mouth, hitting Greninja's chin, and knocking it away. The water wave in Greninja's hand also lost control, flew into the sky, and finally fell on itself. There was a puff of water mist, and Greninja stood up dissatisfied. Although it was not seriously injured, it was very dissatisfied to be hurt by such an insignificant little thing in its eyes. Greninja, use Water Shuriken. Shinji didn't expect that Zyozzy would take advantage of it as soon as they fought, and shouted dissatisfiedly. Greninja's face darkened, and it moved like the wind, attacking Zyozzy's Squirtle swiftly, dazzling everyone. However, Squirtle showed a strong psychological quality and agility far beyond ordinary Squirtle at this time. The audience around only watched two blue short legs, jumping, and dodged a series of violent attacks from Greninja. It seemed to be panicking, but it was actually as steady as an old horse. Zyozzy's Squirtle is so strong. Kajiro exclaimed. Yes, the captain of the Squirtle Fire Brigade. If it is weak, it would be really unreasonable. Zahu smiled. Squirtle Fire Brigade? What is this? Kajiro asked curiously. Don't the institute have 5 squirrels now? And there will be fires in Pallet Town occasionally. So the teacher asked Zyojin to take the lead and organize the fire brigade of these 5 squirrels. Zyozzy's Squirtle trained with the Squirtle Fire Brigade when he was in the Orange Islands, so he is also responsible for the daily training. Naturally, his ability is powerful, Zahu said. Because firefighting requires speed, the speed of the 5 Squirtle's water guns is far faster than that of ordinary Squirtles, even Squirtle. As for Blastoise, their water guns are powerful, but they are not as fast as Squirtle. Squirtle, use the water gun again. Zyozzy ordered. Squirtle opened his mouth quickly and sprayed a stream of water. Greninja, use the one-word slash. Shinde said in a deep voice. He was very dissatisfied that he failed to take down the little turtle after 2 consecutive attacks. Greninja's hands were shining, and he slashed in an instant, splitting Squirtle's water gun in half, then quickly approached Squirtle and slashed with the one-word slash, knocking Squirtle away. Squirtle, hold on, spray the water gun at the stone pillar. Zyozzy shouted. Squirtle's little bald head popped out, sprayed the water gun at the stone pillar, and used the power of reflection to stabilize his body, and sat steadily on the floating board in front of the stone pillar. Greninja, use the one-word slash again. Shinde ordered. Greninja moved forward quickly, moving like the wind, and slashed with one hand, like a sharp blade. Squirtle had just stopped at this moment. How could he avoid it? He was hit without any suspense, and his body flew in the air. The end. The last word cut. Shinde said coldly. Greninja jumped high, his right hand shining, and was about to cut it down. Squirtle, use the water cannon quickly. Zyos, he shouted anxiously. Squirtle suddenly retracted his whole body into his shell, and then the shell rotated rapidly. A powerful water column burst out from the shell and hit Greninja first. Squirtle rotated rapidly, and 3 consecutive water columns hit Greninja's body one after another. Greninja was ruthlessly rushed out, and hit the stone pillar on the side. With the impact of the water cannon, Squirtle's shell was like skipping on the water surface, bouncing several times, and landing on the floating board in the distance. Seeing this, Kona, Kichiro, and Misty all looked at Zahu in unison, more in sync than they had agreed. Why are you looking at me? Do you think my previous training was good? Zahu smiled without any self-consciousness. Very good. Misty said with a stiff smile. Was that training? Pokémon battles are based on life. Zahu said seriously, as if he was educating a student. Kona nodded. He just liked to see you talking nonsense so seriously. Squirtle, keep using the water gun. Zyos, he shouted. Squirtle immediately sprayed a powerful water gun and went straight to Greninja. Boring repetition. Greninja, use the one-word slash and rush straight over. Shinde said disdainfully. Greninja moved, first slashed the water gun with a word, and then rushed straight to Squirtle. This is the time, Squirtle, rocket head hammer. Zyos, he shouted. Squirtle immediately stopped spraying water, and a strange light emanated from its body, especially its head, which was shining brightly. It rushed towards Greninja fiercely. Greninja wanted to knock Squirtle down with a one-word slash, but because Squirtle was short and fast, when he raised his hand, Squirtle's bald head hit its lower abdomen hard, knocking it against a stone pillar on the side in one breath. With severe pain, Greninja lost all its fighting ability. Greninja lost fighting ability. The referee made a timely judgment, and Shinjiro's face was unusually ugly. He actually lost the first game. The final evolution form of Greninja lost to the initial form of Squirtle, and the trainer on the opposite side was Zahu's younger brother. He actually lost to his younger brother. Kichiro, learn more. This is the ability you should have to use an unevolved Pokémon to successfully evolve Pokémon. Zahu said. Yes. Kichiro answered honestly. Since Growlithe lost to Squirtle, Zahu's training requirements for him have become more and more strict. Zyos' command level has really improved a lot. This battle can almost be regarded as a model teaching of petite Pokémon against large Pokémon. Kona watched the game and gave high praise. Zyos, he is really professional in using unevolved Pokémon to fight evolved Pokémon and using small Pokémon to fight big Pokémon. Zahu looked at the cute Pikachu in front. It started roughly from the Vermilion Gym when Pikachu fought Raichu. Zyos, he fell in love with using unevolved Pokémon that had just evolved. Pikachu fought Raichu, Scrabble fought Ironclaw, Fried Pig fought Enwooking, Rocket Sparrow fought Flamahawk, and Scorch Mew fought Blazing Roaring Tiger. Anyway, it has to happen at least once in each region. As for small fighting big, let alone in the early and middle stages of each region, Zyos, he had all small ones. Fighting the gym is small against big. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210 Super Evolution. Shinde took Greninja back with a sullen face. Looking at the arrogant Squirtle in front of him, he felt as disgusted as if he had eaten a fly. He never thought that his final evolved form of Greninja would one day lose to a Squirtle in its initial form. Taking a deep breath, Shinde suppressed all his reluctance. After 5 years of traveling, he has gradually acquired the calm quality that an excellent trainer should have. No matter what the situation is, he should not let his emotions affect his battle. Megalodon, it's your turn. Shinde threw the second Pokeball from his waist. A flash of red light passed by, and a nearly 2-meter long ferocious shark appeared in the field, roaring at Zyos' Squirtle with disdain. Squirtle's cheeks puffed up. If it weren't for the game now, he would have taken out sunglasses from his shell to compete with it. Squirtle, let's make a concerted effort and win this victory. Zyos, he said. Squirtle responded with a cry, looking at the opposite side stupidly. Water gun. Zyos, he ordered. Squirtle quickly sprayed water gun with great power. Megalodon, move at high speed. Shinde said. The Megalodon in the water immediately moved at a high speed, and the shark fin on its back broke through the water. The speed was so fast that it was almost faster than the naked eye. It came in front of Squirtle in an instant, opened its big mouth, and was about to bite it to pieces. Squirtle, jump up and dodge. Zyros said. Squirtle immediately jumped up flexibly. That agility was completely unlike the agility of a turtle. It perfectly avoided the bite of the Megalodon and stepped on the back of the Megalodon. It was about to run away. However, after taking a few steps, a pain suddenly came, and Squirtle's face couldn't help but bitter. Megalodon, push it away, and then give it a rocket head hammer. Shinde ordered. The last round was ended by Zyros with a rocket head hammer, and this round will use the same trick to win. The Megalodon arched its back and pushed Squirtle up to the sky. Then, it was shining with light, leaped out of the water at a high speed, and slammed into Squirtle's shell. Squirtle was knocked hard onto a floating board and turned into a circle of eyes. Squirtle lost his ability to fight. The referee made a simple judgment. Boss, why is this? Why did Squirtle get hurt, even though he obviously avoided the bite of the Megalodon? Kochiro, who was watching, was puzzled. That's because of the Megalodon's characteristics. Its skin is rough. Unless you get the Megalodon's approval and get close to it, you will get hurt if you touch the Megalodon's skin. Although Squirtle avoided being bitten, it will still get hurt when walking on the Megalodon's back. Zahu said. So that's the case. Then you can't use physical attacks. You have to use long-range attacks like water guns. Zyraksha said. That's the theory. Zahu said. Brother Zahu, where is the Pokémon of the Megalodon? Why haven't I heard of it? Zyanagang asked curiously. The bully in the Sea of the Hone region has sharp teeth that can bite through steel and can swim up to 120 km per hour. It often appears in groups. It is a ferocious Pokémon that people don't want to encounter when sailing on the sea. Zahu explained. And the one of Shinde, judging from its swimming speed and attack power, is far beyond the average Pokémon. It is estimated to be at the level of Aqua-seeking. Zyros' crab is difficult to beat. Kona added. Indeed, Zyros' crab is best at physical attacks, and Megalodon itself restrains it in this regard. What's more, there is still a certain gap in the strength of Pokémon now. This battle is hanging. Zahu nodded and agreed with Kona's opinion. In addition, you have to prepare yourself. Gyarados is okay, but Golduck is restrained by these two. Kona said. Zahu nodded. It was not known if it was a coincidence or not. Both of Shinde's Pokémon were water and dark. Dark was the natural enemy of Psychic. Although Golduck was not a Psychic, if the power of Psychic was not counted, Golduck was only Aqua-seeking, or even worse. Zyros on the stage also learned about Megalodon from the illustrations. He frowned in annoyance and threw out his last Megalodon. Megalodon? This is the trump card. Megalodon, Water Jet. Shinde said disdainfully. To be fair, Megalodon's strength was considered an ace, with 130 physical attack and 115 defense. Although the health points were a bit low, it had special strengths, which was better than the average water bucket in 6 items. However, this Megalodon was unlucky. It encountered Megalodon with rough skin characteristics and was doomed to die. As soon as the words fell, Megalodon was wrapped in water, and a strong water column attacked Megalodon. Megalodon, jump into the water. Zyros said. After hearing this, the giant crab quickly moved its crab legs and jumped into the water to avoid the water column attack of the Megalodon. Jumping into the water is even more stupid. Shinde showed a disdainful expression. Megalodon, chase it and let it know who is the real overlord of the sea. The Megalodon showed a fierce expression and chased it all the way. 9 out of 10 Pokémon with evil attributes have the attributes of gangsters and bullies. This kind of bullying of the weak is done by each of them. In order to protect itself, the giant crab hit the Megalodon's mouth with one giant claw, then fled from the water in a panic and jumped onto the floating board above. Megalodon, bite it to pieces. Shinde's order followed closely, and the Megalodon pounced fiercely, opened its big mouth, and was about to bite the giant crab. Giant crab, crab fist. Zyros said. The giant crab's right claw shone brightly, and it swung its fist violently and smashed it at the Megalodon, but the Megalodon bit its giant claw in one bite, and the giant crab's expression was painful. Water cannon, Shinde said, and a strong stream of water burst out from the mouth of the Megalodon. The giant crab struggled hard, but it could not get rid of the Megalodon's sharp teeth that could bite through steel. It was soon sprayed by the water column and hit the stone pillar on the side, showing a depressed expression. The giant crab itself is not famous for its thick blood. Megalodon, bite it again, Shinde said. The Megalodon rushed over quickly, vicious and ferocious. Giant crab, jump up and use crab punch. Zyos, he shouted. The giant crab jumped up easily, with its right fist shining, and smashed down with momentum. Megalodon, open your mouth wide and face up. Bite, Shinde said. The Megalodon raised its head, opened its mouth wide and successfully bit the giant crab's crab. You don't learn your lesson. Go back and practice for a few more years. The Whirlpool Islands competition is not something a child like you can participate in. Megalodon. Giant crab, destroy the death ray. Zyos, he said first. The giant claws of the giant crab bitten by the Megalodon immediately brewed a powerful energy wave, and then rushed into the Megalodon's mouth. The Megalodon was blown away in one breath, and flew for more than 10 meters before stopping. Although it did not completely lose its combat ability, the painful expression on its face was not fake at all. Hitting the outside of the body and hitting the internal organs of the body are completely different injuries. Although the Megalodon is of a high level and has strong defense, it is on the surface of the body, not in the internal organs. It's like the iron-armored Tyrannosaurus is a ground type, but Pikachu can still stun it when he puts his tail into its mouth. If the Megalodon was not really high level and full of physical strength, this move alone would have directly destroyed it. Damn it. Shinde's face suddenly became gloomy. My brother said that when you encounter an opponent who is much stronger than you, the simpler the instructions, the better. Don't talk too much nonsense. When you encounter an opponent who is weaker than you, don't talk too much, or you will easily capsize. Zyos, he said proudly. Giant crab, use crab punch on the water surface. The huge right claw of the giant crab suddenly hit the water surface, and the entire water surface immediately surged. One whirlpool after another naturally condensed. The originally injured Megalodon was immediately trapped in a whirlpool, and could not move. Even the speed that was most proud of was blocked. Okay, giant crab, come with one last move. Destroy the death ray. Zyos, he said. The giant crab excitedly raised its huge claws, and the fierce power gathered, and it was about to defeat the Megalodon. Megalodon, super evolve. At this moment, Shinjiro suddenly shouted loudly, and an evolution keystone on her wrist appeared in front of people, flashing a strange light. A small stone on the tail of the Megalodon also shone with light, and the giant claw crab's destructive death light came, triggering a large amount of water mist. When the water mist dissipated, the Megalodon that remained in the original place had changed greatly. Its body was more than half a meter longer, and there was more yellow skin on its body. What kind of Pokémon is this? Is it another evolution of the Megalodon? The sudden change was beyond everyone's expectations. Not to mention all the audiences were puzzled and surprised. Even the commentator and Mayan priest were confused. When did the Megalodon have a new evolution? Chapter 211 Shinde wins. Does Megalodon also have Mega Evolution? Kona said in surprise. Yes, and its characteristics have changed from rough skin to strong jaws. This guy really found some good stuff when he traveled to Kalos. Zahu said. Zyos was afraid that he would lose this round. The Megalodon of the real era was already at the level of a quasi-king, and now it is almost at the level of a king. Although it is the bottom among the kings, it is not something that Zyos, the giant crab, can deal with. In this case, it seems that I have to go to Kalos to dig for stones. A Mega Evolution stone can really change the outcome. Kona said. Although the Megalodon of the real era is not a match for her main Pokémon, even if it is Mega Evolved, it is hard to say if it is replaced by someone else. Then when I get to Kalos, I will help you find an evolution stone for Slow Hippo. Zahu said. Does Slow Hippo have Mega Evolution? Kona said. Yes, it is the only one I know of among all your Pokémon that can find the evolution keystone. Or you can try to raise a Blastoise. Anyway, half of your Pokémon are water type. Zahu said. Kona glared at Zahu and ignored him. Dr. Zahu, do you know what happened to the Megalodon? At this moment, the commentator came over and asked. He was also pressed to the limit. As a commentator, his duty was to explain to the audience the situations in the game that the general audience did not know, but now he himself did not know. If he commented on more games like this, it would be a small matter to be deducted from his salary, but if others thought he was unprofessional, his career would be in trouble. In particular, if this Megalodon had taken medicine or something, it would be a violation, and if he did not know, it would be even more dangerous. After Miss Mayer's reminder, he knew that Zahu was a doctor, so he could not wait to run over to learn from him. If he could know, it would be the best. If he did not know, then it was normal for him, a commentator, not to be able to explain it, since the doctor did not know. Of course, he was still very wise to ask privately first, so as to avoid Zahu not knowing and offending Zahu in vain. This is a super evolution that only appears in the Kalos region. It is an evolution that surpasses the final evolution of Pokémon. It requires the combination of the appropriate Mega Evolution Stone worn by the Pokémon and the Evolution Keystone worn by the trainer. It is based on the strong bond between the two. It is a short-term evolution phenomenon that can only appear in battle. After the battle, it will return to its original form. Zahu explained. Thank you, Dr. Zahu. The commentator said with surprise. He actually found an explanation. In this case, this commentary crisis will become a glorious moment in his commentary career. After all, not everyone can have super evolution in the game they commentate. He cleared his throat and said excitedly, thanks to Dr. Zahu's knowledge support, the special form of Megalodon in the venue is not due to taking any banned drugs, but a super evolution in the Kalos region. It is based on the good bond between the trainer and Pokémon, and can only be achieved with the evolution key in the Mega Evolution Stone. It is a form of evolution that has never been fully understood. It seems that the bond between the Shinde player and Megalodon is really high. This competition is really exciting. The confused spectators and players around heard the host's explanation, and then they all showed a look of sudden realization, and then they talked about it again. There is no one who comes here to watch the game without paying attention to Pokémon. Now there is a new evolution. Everyone feels that they can talk about it for at least a day. The players looked at Megalodon with a solemn face. This guy is stronger than they thought. Shinde looked at Zahu in the audience in surprise. He didn't expect Zahu to know about Mega Evolution. But now was not the time to discuss this. He stared at Zaozi and said with a bit of murderous intent, are you ready to face the cruel fate? Originally, he didn't intend to reveal this trump card before the duel with Zahu, but he didn't expect that he would capsize in the gutter and force Zaozi into a desperate situation. He had to do it. This is the Mega Evolution that my brother and sister Kona told me about. It will be very powerful after evolution. Zaozi didn't feel scared by Shinde at all. Instead, he looked at the Mega Megalodon with curiosity. Looking at the Megalodon's sharp teeth and beautiful shark fins, his eyes lit up. The fiery look made the Megalodon stunned after Mega Evolution. This human, is his brain broken? Wouldn't normal people be scared when seeing me like this? Where did you get the evolution keystone? In the Kalos region. How did you dig it? Zaozi asked Shinde curiously, completely forgetting that the two were now in a Pokémon duel. Shinde glanced at Zaozi and seemed not to have expected Zaozi to ask these questions at this time. He said coldly, Megalodon, ultimate impact. After two capsizes, he no longer intends to hide his strength and directly pushes forward with the strongest force. The Megalodon's tail trembled and the body exerted force instantly. When the water flow passed through the body, it naturally split into two sides without forming any resistance at all. Like a white light, it came to the front of the giant crab in the blink of an eye. Giant crab, hold on. Zaozi said with a flash of inspiration. The giant crab swung its big claws, and a faint protective shield appeared in front of it. Well done. Holding on can resist any special moves of the opponent, and the super impact is a special move that will make the body stiff for a period of time after using it. Zaozi still has a chance to win. Zyanagan couldn't help but said excitedly. No, it can't be held. Zahu shook his head. As soon as the words fell, the Megalodon suddenly gained strength, breaking through the guard of the special move and violently hitting the crab. The crab was pushed out without any resistance and floated limply on the water. Crab, you have lost your ability to fight. Shinde wins, the referee said, looking at the status of both sides. As soon as the words fell, Shinde's Megalodon Super Evolution form also disappeared and transformed into a normal Megalodon form. Really, it will change back after the battle. Although he lost the game, Zyozzy still didn't look very disappointed. Instead, he looked at Shinde's Megalodon curiously and said to Shinde, "Is the Kalos region interesting? How do I dig the Mega Evolution Stone?" Shinde looked at Zyozzy in astonishment, took back the Megalodon and said, "We are enemies. Why should I tell you? Why are we enemies? We are all Pokémon trainers. After a fierce Pokémon battle, can't we become friends?" Zyozzy said with a matter-of-fact expression. Boring. Shinde looked at Zyozzy with disdain and walked off the field. Zyozzy scratched his head and followed him off the stage. He walked to Zehu and the others and said, "Brother, that Megalodon is very powerful. You have to be careful. Don't worry about me. Even if he super evolves, he can't threaten my Gyarados. On the contrary, you performed very well in this duel." Zehu smiled and touched Zyozzy's head. In this game, Zyozzy's performance was perfect for a trainer who had only been traveling for about a year. In the end, he lost. The difference between Zyozzy's tactics was not big. The main reason was that Shinde was originally strong and super evolved. It was normal for Zyozzy to lose. By the way, if you want to avenge your previous shame, work hard in the Johto League. You might run into him. Zehu said. "Will we meet in the league conference? I will definitely beat him then." Zyozzy's eyes were burning with fighting spirit. "Then train your Pokémon well. When the silver tournament comes, the venue will generally not be a pure water venue like this. Aquatic Pokémon like Megalodon will greatly reduce their combat power on land, and their powerful speed cannot be brought into play at all. These are all things you can work hard on, and there is still hope to win," Zehu said with a smile. "It seems that you are really calm," Kona said with a smile. "After knowing that he came back from the Kalos region, I guessed that he got the Mega Evolution Stone. I originally thought it was Charizard's, but it turned out to be Megalodon. If it was Charizard, his threat would be raised to another level, but Megalodon, my 3 sacred birds are sleeping on his head, and he can't hit it," Zehu said. "Can Charizard also evolve?" Zyozzy said with bright eyes. "Yes, it has 2 different evolutionary forms. In addition, Zyuxa's Gyarados and Zyagang's Onix's evolved Steelix can also mega evolve," Zehu said. "Both are fine." Zyugang and Zyuxa also said with bright eyes. Zehu smiled and didn't tell them that Mega Evolution Stone was difficult to dig at the moment. Zyozzy had not found any in any area. Moreover, trainers who could make Pokémon Mega Evolution would not appear in public and had to be found by others. For example, the father of Citron, the second male in the Kalos region, had Mega Blaziken, but he pretended to be ignorant all day long. He finally confessed when Dr. Blatano found him. If these people really wanted Mega Evolution Stone, it would take 3 or 4 years. Chapter 212, The Grievous Goddard. After leaving the competition venue, Zehu and his friends went to the restaurant to eat. 2 giant Gyarados led a group of water-attributed Pokémon to play in the deep sea. Anyone who threatened them would be taught a lesson by the 2 Gyarados first. Squirtle and other cute little ones were all playing with the power of the tigers. Only Golduck sat in the corner, feeling unhappy. A certain duck, autistic. Not to mention playing, he didn't even want to eat Pokémon food. A duck hid in the corner, didn't want to talk, and thought about his life. Suddenly, a bowl of Pokémon food appeared in front of him. He looked up in surprise, and found that Zehu was looking at him with an interesting look. "What?" Golduck said in Pokémon language. "I came to comfort you. After all, you are my Pokémon, right?" Zehu sat down without any image and patted Golduck's shoulder. Golduck glanced at Zehu, still too lazy to talk. It was with Zehu just to see the girl, and its bond with Zehu can be said to be the lowest among all Pokémon. "Well, it's nothing. It's just that you lost a game. No one will laugh at you," Zehu said. He could understand Golduck's feelings. This dead duck was a duck that loved to show off. It could lose its life, but not its face. And today, in the public eye, with countless beauties looking at it, the mayor priest on the stage was also amused by it, and it was facing a female Pokémon that was much weaker than it. So theoretically, it should be a moment for it to tease Milotic and then be amazed by the beauties. But there was no amazement. As soon as it appeared on the stage, it was confused by Milotic and then beaten the whole time. There was no glory, but there was embarrassment. So how could this Golduck, who always loved to show off, not be autistic? Golduck lowered his head and still didn't want to talk. What's wrong? Can't you bear a blow? Don't you want to play tomorrow? Don't you want to see the beauties? Tomorrow's game will be more exciting, with more beauties. By the way, tomorrow's opponent is called Gaomei, who is also a beautiful girl. Zahu winked. Pretty girls? Golduck raised his head, revealing a hint of excitement subconsciously, but then he remembered that he was beaten by a Milotic who was much weaker than him today, and then he shut himself up again, lowering his head and said, "No, from today on, I will stop pursuing pretty girls." Zahu was stunned and looked up at Golduck. Is this guy's brain broken? He doesn't even like pretty girls? Is this still my Golduck? Has it been swapped? Really? Zahu said. Yes. Golduck nodded fiercely. If Golduck was like this at ordinary times, Zahu would be very happy that his Golduck was finally normal, but now seeing Golduck's unhappy look, he couldn't help but pat Golduck on the shoulder and said, "How can a duck do this? Pursuing love requires perseverance. Look at Xiao Gang. How many times has he been rejected? Isn't he pursuing Miss Joy now?" Zahu pointed forward, and Golduck looked forward in the direction of Zahu's finger. In the hall, Xiao Gang sincerely held the hand of Miss Joy. "Hello, Miss Joy. My name is Xiao Gang." He spoke a whole set of lines like singing an opera, and it was really as smooth as flowing water. Golduck was stunned. He had seen a lot along the way. He was really brave. The power of role models is there, so you have to work harder, little duck. Zahu said. Golduck's eyes lit up slightly, and he looked at Zahu again and said, "Why are you helping me?" "Because you are my Pokémon. We are partners, little duck." Zahu said. "Partner?" Golduck was stunned. Although it became Zahu's Pokémon and obeyed Zahu's command in battle, in fact, it really didn't regard Zahu as a real partner who could fight together. Yes, we have known each other for such a long time, but we haven't had a serious chat. Speaking of which, our relationship has never been like that of a normal Pokémon and a trainer. Instead, we are bad friends. Bad friends who watch girls together, but bad friends are also partners, and we work hard together. Zahu stretched out a palm and said. Golduck thought about it, and finally patted Zahu's palm firmly to show his agreement. He also knew that from this moment on, everyone became a real partner. "Okay, next, let's fight well," Zahu said with bright eyes. The second day of the battle began. "Today we will fight against the knowledgeable Dr. Zahu and Miss Gaomei from Chengxin Town. Let's look forward to the situation of today's battle," the commentator explained enthusiastically. It seems that, because Zahu answered the question yesterday, the commentator deliberately used the prefix knowledgeable to describe Zahu when introducing him. "Go the duck, come out." Zahu threw out Golduck. This time, Golduck did not show off like before, but had a calm face, which was more terrifying than the usual show off. The opposing player Gaomei released a Gyarados. Roar. As soon as the Gyarados came out, it let out a demonstrative roar, and its ferocious expression was enough to scare a large group of small Pokémon. Zahu's expression was calm. Gyarados is one of the top water attribute Pokémon, especially in the Kanto and Johto regions, so there are many people who have captured Gyarados. Now that they have reached the semi-finals, it is normal for the opponent to release a Gyarados. "Go the duck, surf," Zahu said. Golduck's eyes flashed, and a huge wave of 10 meters under its feet rose up, attacking Gyarados in an overwhelming manner. Although the name of the special move is surfing, when Golduck uses it, it is more appropriate to call it tsunami. Gyarados, water cannon. The huge waves also shocked Gaomei, but as a player who has made it all the way to the semi-finals, Gaomei's command quality is first class. Although he was shocked, he remained calm, and gave the attack command calmly. Gyarados roared, and thick bubbles erupted from its mouth, attacking Golduck head-on. Golduck rode the waves and rushed over, not only blocking the water column, but also flipping Gyarados over and knocking him to the ground. Mental shock, Zahu said. Golduck's eyes glowed with a thick blue light, and the aura on his body suddenly became extremely sharp. He pointed a finger at Gyarados, and the powerful mental force violently bombarded it. Gyarados, who had already suffered a surf injury, could not dodge, and was knocked unconscious in an instant. Drive Zahu's Golduck is too strong. It only took 2 moves to knock down Gaomeni's Gyarados. Yesterday's battle did not reflect its strong strength at all, the commentator explained enthusiastically. Gaomeni was also stunned. Her Gyarados had fought all the way up, and no one had ever been able to defeat it so easily. Looking up at Golduck, a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes, and he threw out his last Pokémon, Lanternfish. Just like the previous Woo, they all use this kind of Pokémon with dual attributes of water and electricity. Zahu looked at the lanternfish with 2 light bulbs on its head in front of him, a degenerate version of the electric monster he had seen before. Lanternfish, Electric Spark. Gaomeni was the first to issue an attack command. The 2 light bulbs on the lanternfish's head were shining, and a strong electric current gathered in the light bulbs. Then it flew into the sky, dark clouds gathered, and then more violent lightning struck Golduck. Golduck, telekinesis, Zahu said. Golduck proudly stretched out his finger, and the electric current in the sky seemed to be affected by some uncontrollable force, and quickly retreated, and then hit the lanternfish. The lanternfish accepted the rebounded current, but did not show any obvious pain expression, but became more energetic. Zahu frowned slightly. This lanternfish's characteristic could not be to store electricity, and it was immune to electric attribute damage. Electric attribute attacks are ineffective, so lanternfish, strange light. Gaomeni said. The 2 light bulbs of the lanternfish lit up again, revealing a purple glow, full of confusing power. Gothorduck, telekinesis. Zahu still used the same move. For ordinary Pokémon to use this kind of superpower attack trick against Gothorduck is pure birthday man hanging himself, tired of living. Gothorduck coolly stretched out another finger, and then raised it domineeringly, not only blocking all the attacks of lanternfish, but also controlling the body of lanternfish, and slamming it heavily on the stone pillar on the side, killing it again. Gothorduck won again. Dr. Zahu's Gothorduck is really strong, worthy of being Dr. Zahu's trump card. The commentator shouted excitedly. Countless spotlights on the scene were aimed at Gothorduck, and countless beauties cheered. Gothorduck shook the few pounds of meat on its body again, and posed in a cool pose. Zahu smiled and shook his head. What about quitting masturbation? Sure enough, it is easy to change the country, but it is difficult to change one's nature. Chapter 213. Duel with Shinde. The exciting Whirlpool Islands tournament has finally reached the finals. Now, the 2 players who are about to compete fiercely are our knowledgeable Dr. Zahu and the super evolved Pokémon player Zende, who will be the winner of this Whirlpool Islands tournament and get the honor of the Water Hero. At the venue of the conference, the commentator explained the game with great effort, and all the audience watched the game with great anticipation. I have waited for this day for a long time. For you, I left the Pokémon school. For you, I gave up the job opportunity of a league researcher. For you, I traveled to various regions alone. And for you, I did not use the resources of my family when I was traveling. Now I finally have the opportunity to stand in front of you, in front of everyone, and defeat you. Zende looked at Zahu and said word by word. Zahu rubbed his brows, smiled bitterly and said, I'm sorry, I didn't know that I won a game against you, and it would be such a big blow to you. But, well, can you stop saying it's for you? People who don't know the situation will easily misunderstand. I said I'm straight. If you want to do it, you do it. Asshole, I want to prove that I'm better than you in front of Kona-senpai. Shinde said with a little exasperation. Smarter than me, better than me. Sorry, I'm not your father, and you don't drink Wangzhe milk, so you don't have to compete with me. You've been away for 5 years. How can you be immature? Zahu said. Get lost. You are younger than me. What qualifications do you have to say me? Shinde roared completely out of control. But in terms of strength, prestige, and mental age, I'm older than you. Zahu said. Stop talking nonsense. Come on, Greninja, beat him. Shinde controlled her emotions and threw her treasure ball. You were the first to talk about the past. I'm just afraid that you'll be embarrassed, so I'm here to chat with you. Gyarados, come out and teach your little brother a lesson. Zahu smiled and released Gyarados. As soon as the giant Gyarados appeared, it roared in protest as usual, but the difference was that this time the roar was even more angry, and the Greninja on the opposite side subconsciously showed a trace of fear. Do you know that your Golduck telekinesis is ineffective against my 2 Pokémon, so you can only release the trump card in advance? Shinde said. When we were in school, I told you not to study hard. Although psychic types are at a disadvantage when facing bad habits, who told you that you can't beat them? The reason why Gyarados was the first to go on stage is because yesterday, your Megalodon injured its wife, so now he wants to abuse you. Zahu said. Yesterday, as usual, all the Pokémon were playing in the water under the leadership of the Gyarados and his wife. Because the place was quite large, everyone played in different areas. During this process, the wild female Gyarados clashed with Shinde's Megalodon. After all, when a sea bully and a water overlord meet, there will definitely be friction. There can't be 2 tigers in one mountain, and there can't be 2 overlords in one sea. Although the wild giant Gyarados was not injured, the giant Gyarados refused to do so. If you touch its wife, you will die. Just relying on this giant Gyarados? The body is big enough, but is the speed enough? Shinde said. You will know after you fight, Gyarados. Pray for rain. Zahu said. Gyarados roared, and the sky was immediately covered with dark clouds, and heavy rain fell. Greninja, water shuriken. Shinde said. He didn't know why Zahu used the auxiliary trick of praying for rain, which was beneficial to both sides, but since it was beneficial, he used it. Greninja moved quickly and arrived in front of Gyarados in the blink of an eye. It attacked with both hands at high speed. A series of attacks all landed on Gyarados, but Gyarados did not move at all. In addition to the terrifying power brought by its huge body, it also had strong defense and physical strength. Storm. Zahu said. Gyarados swayed its body, and a strong aura emanated from its body. A huge tornado in the pool rose from the ground, and swept Greninja up into the sky. Greninja, use the one-word slash to break through. Shinde shouted. However, Greninja was caught in the air and its body was out of control at the moment, so how could it make any effective attacks? Bite it to pieces. Zahu said. The huge Gyarados suddenly stretched its head and rushed towards Greninja with a fierce momentum. It bit down with one bite. Greninja was in great pain, but it still wanted to struggle. As a result, the huge Gyarados swallowed it in one bite. What happened? How come Zahu's giant Gyarados swallowed Shinde's Greninja? Is he trying to prey on it? This is against the rules. The commentator was shocked when he saw this scene. Don't panic, Gyarados. The food doesn't taste good. Spit it out. Zahu said. Gyarados nodded, opened his mouth suddenly, and sprayed Greninja out, shooting it onto the floating board on the side. But at this time, Greninja was covered with Gyarados saliva, and his eyes were full of circles. It was really unclear whether he lost his fighting ability because of the beating or because of Gyarados' bad breath. It turned out that Gyarados was just playing tricks on Greninja, and Greninja lost his fighting ability. The commentator explained that, as long as the Pokémon didn't die, it would be fine. As for how to win, it didn't matter. Come back Greninja. Shinde took back Greninja, and then released her trump card Megalodon. Megalodon, explode your power. Shinde took out the evolution keystone, and a strong light shone. The man and the pet were in harmony, and powerful power burst out from the Megalodon. The Megalodon completed the super evolution in an instant. Facing Zahu, who was not Zaozi, Shinde naturally would not wait until halfway to super evolve, and started super evolution at the beginning. It appeared again, the super evolution of Shinde. Gyarados is the overlord of the sea, and Mega Megalodon is the bully of the sea. In this battle between the overlord and the bully, who will survive to the end? The commentator passionately explained, and also expressed the voices of countless people, which Pokémon is more domineering. So what if it's super evolved? Gyarados, Storm. Zahu said, he has great faith in his Gyarados. Out of thin air, a strong tornado of wind was generated in the venue again, and the water in the venue formed a water spout together. to trap the Megalodon after super evolution. Megalodon, use super impact and rush out directly, Shinde shouted. He also trusted the Megalodon after its super evolution. Megalodon's body flashed with light, and the water in the venue automatically separated on both sides when passing through its body. The bully in the sea was not in vain. It rushed out bravely and fearlessly, breaking through the storm of Gyarados and swimming outside. However, it had just broken through the storm, and had not yet had time to show its power. Gyarados, who had been waiting outside, bombarded it with more domineering and outrageous power, also super impact. The same trick, but the effect and power were completely different. When the two overlords collided, Megalodon's super impact was like a child showing off his strength in front of an adult in front of the giant Gyarados' super impact. It was almost powerless to resist, and was violently knocked away by Gyarados. It hit the stone wall next to it in one breath, and the stone wall shattered, cracking a long gully. The whole stadium shook violently, as if it was an earthquake. Many spectators were so scared that they almost wanted to run first. The commentator was stunned for a moment, and only after the entire stadium calmed down did he look at the situation of the game with lingering fear. He saw that Gyarados was still showing off his might, while Megalodon had returned to its original form and fainted. The winner was self-evident. Megalodon has lost its ability to fight, and Dr. Zahu has won. This year's water hero is Dr. Zahu from Pallet Town. The commentator spoke with a little trembling, not daring to look down at the huge Gyarados below. Was this the exciting final as agreed? Aren't the finals of previous years the most exciting ones? Why was this game easier than the preliminary round? From beginning to end, Gyarados didn't use many tricks, and it crushed the two Pokémon of Pallet Town. Aren't they said that Mega Evolution is very powerful? Why was it so easy? Chapter 214 Water Hero. The humans and water Pokémon living in this vast sea area will forever receive the glorious blessing of the sea god, and live in peace forever in this world, illuminated by the sea god. On the podium, Mayor Priest held up the scepter, and faced all the contestants and the audience. The blue sea soul gem on the scepter also shone brightly, and a solemn and sacred feeling arose spontaneously. Although Zahu had no awe of gods like Lugia, he couldn't help but become serious in this atmosphere, and accepted the award from Mayor Priest. Mysterious water drop. When Mayor Priest found that a Pokeball on Zahu's body emitted a little light when she raised the sea soul, her face changed slightly, and she had some thoughts in her mind. When the ceremony was over, Zahu was about to leave, and a temple staff came over and said that Mayor Priest invited him and Kona to go. Zahu and Kona looked at each other and felt a little strange, but since the priest invited them, it was not good to refuse. Led by the temple staff, Zahu and Kona walked into a hidden reception room. They saw Mayor, the priest, with a serious expression and a vague prediction. When Mayor saw Zahu and the other two coming, his serious expression relaxed a little, waved his hand to let the guide leave, and then said to Zahu and Kona, "Drive Zahu, King Kona, Mayor has an unwelcome request. I would like to ask you two, does anyone have Lugia, the god of the sea?" "Yes, I do," Zahu said bluntly. When he came again, he had some expectations. These days, although Zahu did not deliberately show off Lugia, he occasionally let it out for a breath of fresh air. After all, Lugia is too small, and letting it stay in the Pokeball every day will make it sick. Most likely, Maya saw it at some point. Sure enough, Maya, the priest, relaxed her tense expression immediately, revealing an excited and happy expression. She bowed to Zahu and said, "Maya has taken the liberty to invite the two masters here today, hoping that the masters can help our Sea God Temple. If it can be done, the Sea God Temple will be grateful to the two masters. Miss Maya, no need to be polite. We will help you, if it is reasonable, and we can help you." Zahu frowned slightly. The Sea God Temple is the official palace of the Whirlpool Islands, to worship the Sea God Lugia. It was the administrative agency of the Whirlpool Islands a long time ago, but since the establishment of the alliance, it has gradually changed from official to private, and now it is half private and half official. But even so, the Sea God Temple still has considerable power, and generally speaking, it is not necessary to ask them for help. Of course, in other words, if they can ask for help, the matter is probably not simple. So Zahu did not say it firmly. Reasonable and can help. If you want me to hand over Lugia, that is unreasonable. As for it is beyond my ability, let alone I will fight for you. Thank you, Dr. Zahu. It was unknown whether the Mayan priest had not heard the hidden meaning of Zahu's words or felt that his request was reasonable. He stood up happily and said to Zahu and Kona, "It is not appropriate to talk about the following things here. Please follow me, masters." The Mayan priest twisted the handle on one side and the wall behind him made a creaking sound, revealing a dark passage. Then the Mayan priest took the initiative to move forward. Zahu and Kona followed closely behind. One of them was a famous doctor of the Alliance, and the other was one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Alliance. They were both very influential. The Sea Temple was a declining force. Even if they were crazy, they would not openly pit the two of them. After walking through this short passage, Zahu and Kona came to an empty and bright underground temple, which was much larger than the arena that Zahu and Kona saw outside. In the center, a huge Lugia statue was lifelike and full of extraordinary atmosphere. The Mayan priest walked in front and respectfully called an old woman high priest. The old woman turned to look at Zahu and Kona and smiled. The 33rd generation priest of the Sea Temple, Moen, greets the two masters. In front of Lord Moen, "I dare not call you master," Zahu and Kona said in unison. Moen was the priest of the Sea Temple of the previous generation, and also the previous generation of the Water King of Johto. The word master, coming from Moen's mouth, obviously did not qualify them. Moen smiled, turned around and pointed at the murals around the temple and said, "Two masters, do you know the stories on the murals?" Zahu and Kona looked up at the murals around them. The pictures were very clear, and it was obvious that they were often renovated and well maintained. The meaning expressed in the pictures was also very simple and clear. It was that a long time ago, the Whirlpool Islands were suddenly attacked by the power of darkness. The darkness swallowed the light, and the people and Pokémon fell into panic and despair, as if the end of the world was coming. Then in extreme danger, Lugia turned out, saved the people from the water and fire, dispelled the darkness, and ushered in the light again. Zahu's heart was slightly moved. How could this story be so similar to the story of Water Capital? The only difference was that Water Capital was saved by Latius and Latius, while the Whirlpool Islands were saved by Lugia. But what exactly is this darkness? There has been no answer. Could it be the Ultra Beasts? You two should know the history of the founding of the Alliance. At that time, it was because of various mythical beasts that we humans could survive. The patron saint of the Whirlpool Islands is Lugia. Our sea god temple has been worshipping it for generations. Lugia also gave us the blessing of the sea soul, allowing the water Pokémon in our sea god temple to obtain the power of the sea god, which is stronger than ordinary water Pokémon. Said the great priest Moen. Make water Pokémon stronger? Zahu's expression was subtle. Make water Pokémon stronger? Lugia, it's not a water Pokémon. That's right, Lugia, although it is a psychic and flying type, it is a guardian of the sea, and all water Pokémon admire it. Have you ever heard that there was a little Lugia that left its parents and was alone in the sea, and dozens of Gyarados came to protect it, and did not leave until Lugia's parents came? Priest Moen seemed to know Zahu's confusion and explained. The guardian of the sea. Zahu showed an expression of approval, but he still didn't agree with it in his heart. If this matter was put on Manaphy, it would be almost the same. After all, in the movie version, when Manaphy called out, even Kyogre ran over to protect it. But Lugia didn't seem to have that. And here is the manifestation of the true power of the sea soul. Priest Moen took a step forward and tapped a certain place lightly. A small pool emerged, and in the center stood a crystal blue sphere, which looked the same as the sea soul bead on Priest Maia's scepter, but was several times larger. The mysterious water drop was born here. The power of the ocean swims here. As long as the water Pokémon does not die immediately, or reach the limit of their natural lifespan, no matter how serious the injury is, it will recover here. The Marvin priest continued to introduce. Then the trouble of the Sea Temple is also this pool. Zahu said. The Marvin priest specially introduced this pool, so naturally it is most likely that there is something wrong with this pool. Master Zahu is really smart, worthy of being the youngest doctor in the Alliance. This pool has existed for who knows how many years, and as time goes by, the effect becomes weaker and weaker, so we have been trying our best to find Lugia, hoping to let it inject power into this pool again. the Marvin priest said. So let me come. But Zahu shook his head and smiled and directly released the little Lugia. The little Lugia appeared in the temple with its slender neck poking out, wondering in his heart, isn't it time to play? Why did it come out for me? Just as he was curious, he suddenly saw the sea spirit in front of him, his eyes sparkling. Without bothering to say anything to Zahu, he excitedly jumped into the pool, swam freely, and flew to the place where the sea soul gem was, revealing a happy expression. The sea soul gem seemed to have sensed the arrival of the little Lugia, emitting a faint blue light, and an illusory Lugia image flew out, and the whole pool emitted a strange glow, making people feel very happy. The little Lugia had a strange expression, and looked at the Lugia phantom cutely. The two Lugia looked at each other, as if they were communicating something. Zahu looked surprised. He released the little Lugia, because he wanted to say that the little Lugia was too small and couldn't help, but he didn't expect such a change. The glory of Lugia. Zahu and Kona were surprised, but the High Priest Moen and the Priest Mayor both looked respectful, even with the meaning of pilgrimage. After a while, Lugia's shadow disappeared, and the little Lugia's body seemed to grow a little bigger. It flew happily to Zahu, and said in Pokémon language how much benefit it had gained. Zahu smiled slightly, and touched the little Lugia's head. Now the little Lugia has left the baby state, and has begun to grow. Thank you, two masters. High Priest Moen and Priest Mayor thanked in unison. No need to be so, we didn't do anything. Zahu said, this was the truth without any falsehood. From beginning to end, Zahu didn't pay anything, but little Lugia had a lot of gains. But it is because of the arrival of the two masters that the Sea God Pond has recovered. Priest Moen was still grateful. Don't be too polite, we are going to challenge the Asahi Gym next, so I won't bother you anymore. Zahu said. Since Dr. Zahu has made the arrangements, we can't interfere too much. However, if Dr. Zahu needs anything in the future, the Sea God Temple will not refuse. In addition, the ship from the Whirlpool Islands to Asahi City belongs to our Sea God Temple, and we can arrange the best position for Dr. Zahu, said the Great Priest Moen. In that case, thank you, Senior Moen, Zahu said. It was not easy for Zahu to refuse all the good intentions, and it would be better to get to Asahi City earlier. That night, Zahu and his group took Zyossi and his group, and released 2 more Gyarados to breed, and headed towards Asahi City. Chapter 215 Kazuya. This is the light yellow gym. It looks quite majestic, Kajiro said as he looked at the huge gym in front of him. The light yellow gym is the representative gym of the steel type, so the design style of the gym is close to the design of steel. The general structure of the entire gym is made of steel. Standing outside, you can naturally feel the strong will. No matter how majestic it is, let's fight first. Zyossi shouted excitedly. As he spoke, he walked over and knocked hard on the door. Welcome. A young female voice reached everyone's ears. As the words fell, the iron door that was originally closed slowly opened. Then, the voice sounded again. You are the trainers who will challenge the gym. Please come in. Everyone entered the steel building as instructed. The gym, which was originally dim, immediately became bright after Zahu and others entered. Who is the gym challenger? The voice sounded again, but the person still hadn't appeared. Zahu raised his eyebrows. This gym trainer seemed to be a bit pretentious. It's me. Zyossi didn't think too much, and couldn't wait to shout out first, running to the trainer's seat. Zahu smiled and let him do it. His intuition told him that something was a little wrong. I know. After this time, the door of another part of the arena slowly opened, and the person who spoke finally revealed her true face. A short-haired little lolly. The little lolly looked at Zahu and others, and said with a serious expression, I'm the gym trainer of the light yellow gym. Ami, a beautiful warrior. Zahu and Kona looked at each other with funny expressions. They were not Zyossi. They had seen the photos of the gym trainers of the Johto gym. Ami, the trainer of the light yellow gym, was an adult girl, and had nothing to do with the flat lolly in front of them. I'm Zyossi from Pallet Town. Please fight a gym battle with me. Zahu and Kona recognized him, but Zyossi never made a strategy, and even considered which gym to go to after beating a gym. He issued a challenge without hesitation. His momentum and confidence are always so abundant. Stop. Although I don't want to stop your enthusiasm, but the girl opposite, Amy, seems to be 19 years old this year. May I ask how come you are so small? Zahu looked at the little Lalita tactfully. Ah. The little Lalita opposite was stunned when she heard Zahu's words. The first time I lied, I was exposed. This is too embarrassing. Keksha, what are you doing? At this time, a slightly angry voice sounded, and a young girl with waist-length brown hair, a pair of cute braids on her head, wearing a white long skirt, and a little Magnemite leaning on her shoulder walked over from the steel gate. The real one is on the field. Zahu smiled slightly, and without asking the little Lali just now, he said to the new girl, you should be the real trainer of the gym, Amy. Zyozzy and I are here to challenge you. Okay, I'll start preparing now. Amy nodded, then turned to the little Lali just now, Keksha, and said, Keksha, you go aside now, and I will settle with you about your impersonation of me later. Okay. Keksha said aggrievedly. Why? Isn't she the gym trainer, Miss Amy? Zyozzy was still confused. She is an intern in our gym, Keksha, because she has always wanted to have a gym match, so she impersonated me. Amy explained. Oh. Zyozzy nodded belatedly. Okay, the real one is here. Let's start the gym match. Zyozzy, you are standing there. You go first. Zahu said. Okay, thank you, Pikachu, it's you. Zyozzy said excitedly, and the Pikachu on his shoulder immediately jumped easily and jumped onto the field with its tail erected, showing an attacking posture. In that case, Magnemite, you go. Amy said, and as soon as the voice fell, the Magnemite on her body floated freely, and a light blue electric current came out of her body. Zahu and others became spectators, watching the two people's game, just sitting in the audience. Seeing Keksha lowering her head and looking unhappy, Zahu couldn't help but ask with concern, why are you so sad? You haven't really made any irreparable mistakes. Miss Amy won't punish you too hard. Miss Amy is not very strict with us gym trainees, and I really want to have a gym competition. Keksha said. Is that so? Then how about I accompany you to have a Pokémon competition? Zahu smiled. Okay, thank you. Keksha said in surprise. Zahu smiled slightly, and he was free anyway, so he might as well coax a child. Keksha jumped off the chair happily, took Zahu to the other side of the fighting field and said, don't underestimate me, my Pokémon has a special move. Special move? I'll wait and see. Zahu laughed, not taking Keksha's special move seriously. Children are always naive. Zyozzy thought he could beat the king not long ago, and challenged everyone he met. Come out, Onyx. Keksha threw out an Onyx excitedly. Zahu frowned slightly, looking at the Onyx in front of him. The whole body was shining, not like the crystal Onyx formed by mutation, but was coated with wax. Is this the special move you mentioned? Coated with wax, and then blocked from water attacks? Zahu said. Yes, isn't it great? Keksha said proudly, as if she was happy with her own creativity. It's terrible. First of all, your waxing will make Onyx uncomfortable. Secondly, Pokémon battles are a comprehensive application of attributes, tactics, and levels. As a trainer, you need to play to the strengths of Pokémon, not waxing, which is a cheating method that is banned in the league. Zahu said. Ah, this is cheating in the league. Keksha said in surprise. Yes, it's real cheating. It's a pity that Miss Amy didn't see it just now, otherwise you, the intern, would have to leave. Zahu shook his head. He was really a child. Then I will wash off the wax right away. Keksha said in panic. Zahu smiled and nodded. Suddenly, a few grains of sand flew over. He couldn't help but look inside curiously and found that Miss Amy's Steelix was using a sandstorm, forming a storm around Steelix, isolating all the flames of Zyozzy's Infernape outside. Did you see it? This is the normal operation of blocking the ultimate move. The fire type restrains the steel type, but as a trainer, you can use the ultimate move of Pokémon to successfully resist it. Zahu said to Keksha. I see. I understand. Kezia nodded silently, as if she felt that Zhihui was right. Every Pokémon has strengths and weaknesses. As trainers, what we need to do is to maximize its strengths without using these unorthodox methods. Zhihui said, thinking for a moment, and threw out Lucario. Like Lucario, it is a fighting type. can't fly and lacks certain long-range attack methods. It is at a disadvantage when fighting flying Pokémon, but Lucario can jump up and reach the height of ordinary flying Pokémon. Right, Lucario. Lucario nodded, jumped up, and jumped 5 or 6 meters high, much higher than ordinary flying Pokémon. Did you see it clearly? This is the correct way to use Pokémon. When you become an adult, go out and travel, and think it over carefully. ZHIHU, I said. I understand. Thank you. When I can travel, I will challenge you. Keza said. Want to challenge me? That's going to have to wait until you come of age. However, you're only 7 years old now. When you come of age, I'll probably be in the SYNOPSIS League by then. I look forward to your good performance then. Zahu said with a smile. Chapter 216, Light Yellow Gym. While Zahu and Keksha were chatting, the battle inside came to an end. In the end, it was Zyos' Infernape that defeated Ami's Steelix. Next, it's my turn. Miss Ami, you should have other Pokémon. Zahu walked in and said. No problem. Dr. Zahu is the champion of the Quartz Conference, and I will not show mercy. As for the gym rules, I won't introduce them in detail. 2-on-2. Ami smiled. As a gym trainer, there are usually 1 or 2 batches of Pokémon to deal with several waves of challenges. In this case, Lucario, go ahead. Zahu said. Lucario is a fighting type, which just restrains the steel type. Lucario nodded silently and walked to the center of the venue coolly. Lucario, in this case, 3-in-1 Magnemite, you go ahead. Miss Ami threw a Pokéball. 3-in-1 Magnemite, the evolution of Magneto. Lucario, quick battle, quick decision, power up punch. Zahu said. Lucario suddenly moved, his right fist gleaming with light, and attacked the 3-in-1 electromagnetic monster with great force. 3-in-1 electromagnetic monster, get out of the way quickly. Ami shouted. The 3-in-1 electromagnetic monster immediately floated in the air, using magnetism to dodge Lucario's powerful punch. Continue to use the enhanced punch. Zahu's expression was calm, and he didn't seem to care at all that the attack missed. 3-in-1 electromagnetic monster, after you dodge, use 100,000 volts. Miss Ami said. The 3-in-1 electromagnetic monster floated in the air, dodging Lucario's battle again, and then burst out a strong blue electric current, attacking Lucario directly. A flash of lightning, get under the 3-in-1 electromagnetic monster. Zahu said. The 3-in-1 electromagnetic monster's powerful electric current struck down, and Lucario increased his speed, and came under the 3-in-1 electromagnetic monster in an instant. Enhanced punch. Zahu said. Lucario suddenly jumped up, and with a terrifying power in his right fist, he punched the 3-in-1 electromagnetic monster hard, knocking it to the ground. 3-in-1 electromagnetic monster loses its ability to fight. The referee next to him made a ruling. One punch made the electromagnetic monster lose its ability to fight. Ami's face changed slightly. The strength of this Lucario seemed to be stronger than she thought. In that case, Armored Bird, you come out. Ami threw a treasure ball, and a flying bird Pokémon wearing armor appeared on the field. Armored Bird, Miss Ami actually has such a Pokémon. Zahu showed a trace of surprise on his face. Armored Bird has the dual attributes of steel and flying, and the flying attribute restrains the fighting attribute. The light yellow gym is the representative of the steel type in the Johto region. I naturally raise a lot of steel type Pokémon in the Johto region, especially Armored Bird, which can restrain the fighting type. Miss Ami smiled. Really? Lucario, sword dance. Zahu said. Lucario waved his hands, his aura increased again, and his eyes became fierce. Armored Bird, air slash. Ami was the first to issue an attack command. The wings of the Armored Bird vibrated, and 2 sharp air blades were cut out, attacking Lucario with strong force. Take it head on with the enhanced punch. Zahu said. Lucario's fists shone brightly, and he took the 2 air blades of the Armored Bird one by one. Although the flying type restrains the fighting type, it is unfortunate that the steel type resists the flying type skills, and Lucario has both fighting and steel attributes. Steel wings. Ami said. The Armored Bird swooped down at a high speed, and its wings flashed. Next, Zahu said. Lucario raised his head, looked directly at the Armored Bird, raised his hands, and grabbed the wings of the Armored Bird. The strong impact of the wings made Lucario slide for 3 or 4 meters before he stopped. But it finally stopped, and the wings of the armored bird that were attacking at this moment were held by Lucario, and it could no longer launch a powerful attack. Throw it to the ground, Zahu said. Lucario held the wings of the armored bird tightly, gathered strength in both hands, and threw it hard, violently smashing the armored bird to the ground, raising a cloud of smoke and sand. Armored bird, are you okay? Can you continue to fight? Amy said anxiously. In the small pit, the armored bird's eyes showed a little fatigue, but the trembling of its wings showed that it could still fight. Okay, armored bird will fly into the sky, and then keep using air slash. Amy shouted. Want to keep a distance before fighting, bullying Lucario for not being able to fly? Lucario, jump up, Zahu said. Amy frowned slightly, and saw Lucario flying up at an incredible speed, and with a leap, he turned over, and rode on the armored bird. The armored bird made a sharp bird cry and shook hard, trying to throw Lucario off, but how could Lucario, who was already on the armored bird, be easily thrown off by it? He clamped the coy bird fiercely, punching left and right. Even with the protection of the armored bird, which could only take a beating, but not fight back, was still difficult to maintain, and the injuries on his body became more and more serious. That's it, don't relax, fight to the end in one breath, Zahu shouted. The armored bird put on a layer of armor, which certainly improved its defense, but at the same time, its speed also decreased, especially the speed of ascent, which was far less than Lucario's agility. After being ridden, Zahu thought he had a sure win. Armored bird, turn over and fall to the ground. Amy suddenly shouted. The armored bird, who was beaten by Lucario in the sky, finally reacted and flew upwards, then turned over, and fell directly from the sky. Lucario was holding the armored bird tightly at this moment, so he naturally fell down with it. Since he couldn't get rid of it, he would use Lucario as a scapegoat and fall directly. In this way, Lucario would definitely be more seriously injured. Lucario, use Bone Strike on the ground, to get out of it in one breath. Zahu certainly would not give Amy a chance, and hurriedly gave another order. Lucario immediately condensed 2 bone sticks in his hands, took the lead, inserted them into the ground, gave himself a force, and then released the armored bird with both feet, and quickly swung it to the side. As soon as his feet landed, the armored bird had already landed with a bang, making a loud noise, and then revealing 2 circles of eyes. The armored bird has lost its ability to fight, so the winner is Zahu from Pallet Town. The referee said. Come back, armored bird. Amy took back the armored bird, and walked towards Zahu and said, I didn't get there first. The armored bird was about to hit me, but you were able to dodge it in this way. I thought Lucario would definitely be knocked unconscious. That's Lucario's credit. If Lucario wasn't fast enough, I wouldn't be able to do anything, Zahu said. The trust relationship between Pokémon is also an important criterion for measuring the strength of a trainer. No wonder you became the champion of the last Quartz conference. This is the proof of your victory over me. The Iron Badge. Amy handed over the Iron Badge and said, thank you, but I may have to trouble you for a while, because we have another person to challenge. Zahu looked at Xyloxia on the side and said, there's more. Amy smiled bitterly. She hasn't been so busy for a long time. Zahu shrugged and smiled, watching Xyloxia and Amy fight. In the end, Xyloxia won, and it was even easier, because Amy didn't want to fight anymore. It felt a bit like letting her win in the end. Next, go to Yuansu City, and get the Phantom Badge, and then go to Kaji Gym to get the Frozen Badge, Zahu said. Everyone had no objection, so they got on the train to Yuansu City again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217 Yuansu City. It's still faster to take the train. We're almost at Yuansu City. When we travel in the future, we should take the train more often, Xyloxia said with a happy face as she got off the train in Yuansu City. It's good enough that you guys didn't get lost. As for the train, to be honest, don't worry too much. I'm afraid you may not even be able to find the way to the train. Zahu complained mercilessly. It's all because of Zyozzy. Zyarksha complained to Zyozzy on the side. Every time Zyozzy led the way, he always took them to a place that couldn't even be found on the map. What's the matter? Walk more and see more different Pokémon. Zyozzy said indifferently. Zahu heard this and glanced at Zyozzy, thinking, is this the reason why you can meet mythical beasts in various places? Zyarksha rolled her eyes at Zyozzy, too lazy to argue with Zyozzy. Anyway, there would be no result. She looked up at a majestic tower in the distance, showing a curious expression and said, Brother Zahu, what is that place? The bell tower is the representative building of Enju City. It was built after the first bell tower that was used to worship the Ho-Oh was burned and became the burnt tower. Zahu said. Bell tower. Speaking of which, your Haunter was exchanged from the bell tower gym trainer Zyana-san with the Ho-Oh video. Kona said. Yes, Enju gym is near the burnt tower. Let's go first. Zahu said. Zahu took the lead and led the way to the burnt tower. Soon they arrived at the place. Looking around, looking at the burnt tower that was almost in ruins, Zahu couldn't help shaking his head. Who would have thought that 300 years ago, this tower was the most sacred place in the Johto area? Thinking about it, Zahu suddenly threw out Haunter, and Haunter came out mischievously as usual, but found that the place where it came out this time was actually its hometown. Without Zahu's words, it floated into the burnt tower and called a few times. Then a large group of Ghastly appeared. They were surprised at first when they saw Haunter, and then they seemed to recognize Haunter, and they gathered together excitedly to play. Several Ghastlies boldly flew towards Zahu. Seeing this, Zahu deliberately made a grimace, and the 3 Ghastlies were startled, and then they floated around Zahu excitedly. Zyozzy and his friends were subconsciously shocked when they saw so many Ghastlies, but later they found that these Ghastlies were just mischievous, so they also started to play, and almost became good friends all of a sudden. Who am I talking about? It turns out that it is Dr. Zahu and King Kona who can make so many Ghastlies come out. At this time, a gentle boy's voice sounded, and a young man in a light blue shirt walked out of the burnt tower, and looked at Zahu and Kona and said, Long time no see, Mr. Komatsu. Zahu said. It has been a while since we last saw it. Thanks to the video about Ho-Oh, provided by Dr. Zahu, we have some clues to find it. Unfortunately, we still haven't found it. I wonder if Dr. Zahu has any other clues? Zyada-song said to Zahu. Sorry, I only saw Ho-Oh once by chance, and I don't have any extra information. Zahu smiled, thinking that among so many first level mythical beasts, Ho-Oh's appearance rate is almost the lowest, and even Hooper's mythical beast battle is not included. Maybe it's really just being a happy photographer, floating in the sky. Is that so? Zyada-song said with some disappointment. By the way, I haven't introduced them to you yet. This is my younger brother Zyozzy, and his companions Zyada Gang and Zyarksha. This is Zyada-song, the gym trainer of the Vermilion Gym. He is good at ghost type Pokémon, and he is the descendant of the priest who once worshipped Ho-Oh. Zahu said. Ho-Oh? What kind of Pokémon is it? Zyozzy asked curiously. The mythical beast that controls life and the warm currents in the sky was once worshipped by everyone in the Johto region, and has the ability to bring humans and Pokémon back to life. Wherever it passes, there will be a rainbow, and any trainer who is favored by it is called the Rainbow Warrior. It is the unknown Pokémon you saw on the first day you went out. Zahu said. Oh, so that Pokémon is Ho-Oh. Zyozzy suddenly realized. Why? Has Zyozzy also seen Ho-Oh? Zyada-song asked curiously. Yes, and he has also seen Sukyun and Reikao. It is estimated that Entei is not far away. Zahu said. What? You have seen Sukyun and Reikao? Zyada-song looked at Zyozzy with a shocked face. How is it possible? Each of these Pokémon has been searched for by their entire family for generations, but they have not found it until now. But Zyozzy has seen them all. Don't be so shocked. Compared to the Pokémon this guy will see in the future, the current one is nothing, and my intuition tells me that Ho-Oh likes Zyozzy very much. Zahu said. Ho-Oh likes Satoshi. Zyada-song's expression was even more shocked, and then he was full of surprise. Is Ho-Oh finally going to change its attitude towards humans and is willing to get close to humans? Satoshi, if you meet Ho-Oh again, you must tell it that we all know we are wrong. What does this mean? And what are Entry, Sukyun, and Reikao? Satoshi said confusedly. Let me explain. You all know Lugia, right? Ho-Oh's status in Johto is similar to Lugia's status in the Whirlpool Islands and Asia Island. Do you understand this? Zahu said. The trio of Satoshi nodded in unison. But unlike Lugia, which is still believed in, Ho-Oh once suffered a crisis of faith. 300 years ago, a group of humans wanted to control Ho-Oh, and then fought with Ho-Oh. The location was the bell tower used to worship Ho-Oh. In the end, a fire burned the bell tower into the scorched tower it is now. Ho-Oh also left Vermilion City, indicating that he no longer trusts humans until now. Zahu said. What about Entry, Sukyun, and Reikao? Satoshi asked curiously. They are collectively called the three holy beasts, and their status is similar to that of my three divine birds. There are two different stories about their origins, but both are related to the fire that burned the scorched tower. It is also recognized that the three holy beasts are the messengers of the Phoenix King. They are the eyes and ears that the Phoenix King uses to observe humans. If humans repent, the Phoenix King will know through them and then come back here. Legend 1. In that war, the flames burned fiercely and burned 3 Pokémon to death. The Phoenix King felt sorry for them, so he used his special ability to bring the 3 Pokémon back to life. Legend 2. It is said that before leaving the scorched tower, the Phoenix King, like Regis Chica, used the lightning that struck the Bell Tower that day to create Raygong, the flames that burned the Bell Tower to create Entry, and finally used the rain that extinguished the fire to create Sukyun, and let these 3 Pokémon become its messengers. Zahu said. So that's how it is, but which of the two stories is more credible? Zyossi said. Whether it is credible or not depends on the individual, but personally, I believe the second statement more, because if it is the first statement, then the number of the 3 sacred beasts should be unique, but from the current data, Sukyun and his figures have appeared in Kanto, Johto, Hone, and SYNOPSIS, and some of them even appeared at very close times, which basically excludes the possibility that they are the same. If it is the second statement, it is more likely. After all, the Ho-Oh can continue to create 3 Entry. Zahu said. From the current data, there should be 3 in each region. Perhaps the Ho-Oh did not abandon all humans, but only abandoned the humans in the Johto region. It made the 3 sacred beasts move in various regions, and also chose which region is more suitable for it to live in. Zyasong said. Do you have this idea? Zahu looked strange. You know, each region has its own guardian beast. If the Ho-Oh goes there to grab the territory, won't he be beaten? Groudon, Kyogre, Rayquaza, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, Reshiram, Zekrom, Kyurem, Xerneas, Yveltal, Zygarde, Solgaleo, Lunala. Which one of these is a vegetarian? Will they be afraid of Ho-Oh? Oh, no, maybe it's okay to grab Groudon. After all, Groudon can't fly, so the Cliff Sword can't hit it. The other two, Rayquaza is in outer space, and Kyogre is in the sea. They don't conflict with each other. If they really go there, maybe they can really have some fun. Or in the Alola region, if Ho-Oh agrees to fight against the Ultra Beasts together, maybe Solgaleo and Lunala will agree. Thinking of this, Zahu suddenly had a bold guess in his mind. If Ho-Oh is really looking for the most suitable place to live, will he not want to go back to Johto after arriving in the Alola region? Although the economy of the Alola region is the most backward among several regions, if we talk about folk customs, then the people in the Alola region are the most simple, and the spirit is sharing. Thinking of this, Zahu couldn't help but look at Zyasong, thinking, if the Ho-Oh really moved, as a believer of the Ho-Oh, do you have to move too? Drive Zahu, what are you thinking about? Is it related to the whereabouts of the Ho-Oh? Zyasong asked. No, we are here to challenge the gym competition. When can we start? Zahu smiled. Those thoughts just now must not be said out loud. Let's do it now. There is still time. Zyasong said. Then let's start. Haunter is back. It's time to have fun with your friends. Zahu smiled. After hearing this, Haunter immediately flew to Zahu excitedly. Chapter 218, Haunter Duel. Zahu from Pallet Town is going to compete against Xiaosong, the gym trainer of the Vermilion Gym. The match with gym badges as the stakes begins now. The number of Pokémon that can be used is 3. Trainers can change Pokémon, but gym trainers cannot change Pokémon. The referee at the Vermilion Gym said to both sides, "As usual, I will send out my Pokémon first. Ghastly, come out." Xiaosong threw out a Ghastly and said, "Garrett's, you go." Zahu looked at the Ghastly passage next to him. Ghastly immediately floated over excitedly and showed a naughty grimace to Xiaosong's Ghastly. Xiaosong's Ghastly also glared back with a grimace. Then, a Ghastly and a Haunter were competing in a grimace contest. Zahu showed a helpless expression. Pokémon of the Ghastly series generally have no ill intentions towards humans and will not attack, but they like to play pranks on humans. They are also like this. "Okay, stop playing. Let's hypnotize first," Zahu said. Haunter stopped moving after hearing Zahu's order, and a faint blue light emanated from his eyes. "Gastron, use the strange light." Xiaosong also gave the order immediately, and strange light spots appeared on Ghastly, and then the two spiritual forces clashed in midair, but finally cancelled each other out. Zahu's Haunter was stronger than Xiaosong's Ghastly, but Hypnosis was a psychic attack, while the strange light was a ghost attack. Ghosts were good against psychics, and the attributes were favorable, so they could only draw. "Gastron, go invisible," Xiaosong said, and Xiaosong's Ghastly disappeared directly in the venue. "Do you want to play hide and seek? Haunter, go invisible too. If you lose in the end, I won't let Meowth play with you," Zahu said. Haunter laughed, stuck out his big tongue, made a face at Zahu, and then disappeared in the venue. Soon, all kinds of weird sounds came from the venue, which made people shudder. Meow Meow subconsciously shrank his body. Although he knew that this was just the instinctive reaction of ghost-type Pokémon in battle, he was a little scared when it came to ghosts. He is also a timid cat. After playing for a while, 2 tongues suddenly appeared in the sky and fought there. Zahu and Xiaosong did not give orders. First, they believed that their Pokémon could win, and second, they could not see it, so they naturally could not give orders. After a long time, 2 hands suddenly stretched out from the void, and then a purple-black energy ball condensed and hit one place hard. A Ghastly appeared, lying on the ground helplessly, revealing a circle of eyes. Then, the figure of Haunter also appeared, looking at the Ghastly on the ground, with a proud face. "I actually won." Xiaosong showed a trace of surprise on his face. "It seems that your Haunter is well cultivated. Of course, it's not easy to get the Pokémon. Next, it should be Haunter vs. Haunter," Zahu said. In a 3-on-3 match, Xiaosong must use a series of evolutions of Haunter, Ghastly, Haunter, and Jenga. "That's right, the next Haunter is stronger than the previous one," Xiaosong said, throwing out a Haunter. "It's just different from the 2 Pokémon making faces together just now." This time, the 2 Haunters looked at each other, and it felt like enemies meeting and getting jealous. The atmosphere suddenly became wrong. They even started to quarrel. "What's going on, Xiaos?" he asked curiously. "It seems that the 2 Haunters have been playing together since they were young, but they have always had a bad relationship. It seems that, when Xiaosong's Haunter was young, it stole a piece of candy from the boss Haunter." Meow. Professional translator. Meow Meow translated online. "Is this the grudge over a piece of candy?" Kajiro said seriously. "Yes, it's said again now." The boss Haunter said that he wanted Xiaosong's Haunter to spit out all the candy it ate that year. Then Mr. Xiaosong's Haunter said, "It's impossible. It's impossible to return it after it's eaten it." Meow Meow said. "Mr. Xiaosong's Haunter is so shameless." Xiaos he couldn't help but interrupt. Pikachu agreed, imagining that if someone stole its ketchup, it would use 100,000 volts to electrocute it. "Okay, Haunter, if you win, I'll buy you a bag of candy, and now I'll give it a shadow ball," Zahu said. Haunter rarely showed a naughty expression, but a serious face. The hatred of stealing food is irreconcilable. A purple-black energy bullet condensed between its 2 claws and attacked the opposite Haunter fiercely. "Haunter, dodge," Xiaosong said calmly, and his Haunter also faithfully implemented his instructions, and its body swayed lightly in the air, just avoiding Zahu's Haunter shadow ball. Next evil wave. Xiaosong said. Xiaosong's haunter showed a sinister smile on his purple face, and the evil energy wave emanated from his body, directly hitting Zahu's haunter. Zahu's haunter screamed in pain and quickly pulled away. I can actually have evil waves. Zahu's expression changed slightly. Haunter is a ghost and poison type. Ghost type is a rare type that not only has no resistance to attacks of its own attributes, but is also restrained by ghost attributes. Ghosts do double damage to ghosts, but poison types resist ghost attributes, so if Zahu's haunter's shadow ball hits, it will be normal damage. However, evil waves, evil attribute attacks, restrain ghost type haunter. Even if Zahu's haunter is well trained, it will lose its combat ability after being hit by 2 more shots. This is because Zahu has been trained, otherwise ordinary haunters will die in 1 shot. Zahu frowned. The level difference between the 2 haunters is not big, and the opponent has an extra trick that can restrain haunter, which is very troublesome. Haunter, tongue licking. Xiaosong took advantage of the victory and pursued. Xiaosong's haunter stretched out his long tongue and whipped Zahu's haunter's face like a whip, smashing Zahu's haunter far away. Zahu's face became more serious. His haunter's special moves are currently psychic, ghost and poison. Poison special moves cannot poison Pokémon, which is almost useless. The remaining ones are all defeated by the evil wave. It is difficult to win, but it involves the revenge of taking sugar. If haunter is withdrawn, it will probably be unhappy. In this case, he has to take a gamble. Haunter, Shadow Ball, Zahu said. Zahu's haunter, who had been beaten and was waiting for orders, heard Zahu's order and immediately condensed a purple-black energy bomb and smashed it at Xiaosong's haunter. Haunter, get out of the way and then use the evil wave. Xiaosong shouted. Xiaosong's haunter floated and immediately dodged and then emitted a powerful evil wave again. Get out of the way, Shadow Ball, Zahu said. Zahu's haunter also quickly floated up, showing all the training he had received from his usual attack, and calmly dodged the evil wave that Xiaosong was determined to win, and then a shadow ball hit Xiaosong's haunter, and Xiaosong's haunter felt pain, and also pulled away. Xiaosong's eyes changed slightly, as if he didn't expect Zahu's haunter to be so flexible. Haunter, use the evil wave again, Xiaosong suddenly ordered. Xiaosong's haunter immediately emitted evil energy waves again, which were strong and terrifying. Haunter, dodge again, and then use Shadow Ball, Zahu said. Zahu's haunter immediately dodged, and then used the same trick, to condense an energy bomb. Haunter, lick with your tongue, and roll away that Shadow Ball, Xiaosong ordered first. Xiaosong's haunter immediately stretched out his long tongue, rolled it hard, snatched Zahu's haunter's shadow ball, and then hit Zahu's haunter. Zahu's haunter was caught off guard, and fell down again. Okay, one last tongue lick, Xiaosong said. Xiaosong haunter proudly swung out his long tongue, wanting to kill this guy who had been unable to beat him in one move. Haunter, don't give up, grab its tongue, Zahu said. Zahu haunter lay on the ground and opened his eyes with difficulty. His hands, which had been separated from his body, immediately grabbed Xiaosong haunter's tongue and pulled it hard. Xiaosong haunter immediately made a painful sound. Although it can use its tongue to attack and extend its tongue, it does not mean that its tongue is infinitely long. It will be very painful to be pulled like this. Okay, haunter, grab the tongue and beat it up, Zahu said. Zahu haunter immediately grabbed Xiaosong haunter's tongue excitedly, and then swung it wildly like a meteor hammer, and then Xiaosong haunter kept making painful cries. Although it is a ghost, it doesn't hurt much to be smashed on the ground, but it hurts to have its tongue swung wildly under extreme conditions. Wait a minute, I give up this round. Xiaosong threw a white towel and said. In such a severe pain, his haunter could no longer use his special moves, and could only be thrown around. Although the damage was not great for the time being, if he continued to be thrown around like this, it would probably cause irreparable damage to his haunter. Compared to this, the outcome of a game was nothing. I admit defeat. Haunter, let it go, Zahu said. Seeing the white towel on the ground, Zahu's haunter had to reluctantly let go of the tongue in his hand. Komatsu's haunter fell directly to the ceiling due to inertia, and then wanted to take revenge, but the slightly painful tongue made it extinguish this idea, so it had to fly to Komatsu's side with a frustrated look. Seeing this scene, Zahu's Haunter was even more delighted, cheering happily, flying freely in the sky, and many ghastly companions came to bless it. In the midst of harmony, a white light suddenly emanated from its body. After the white light dissipated, Haunter disappeared, and only a Jenga that was larger than the average Jenga was left. It's evolved. Zahu's face lit up with joy. This little troublemaker has finally evolved to its final form. The newly evolved Jenga was still a little confused. He looked at his body that had finally become one and his newly grown legs, and then he became excited again. He proudly flew to Zahu's side, showing off his growth. After getting Zahu's encouragement, he began to pester Meowth. For some reason, Jenga's favorite thing was Meowth, but Meowth was afraid of it. For example, now, it was trembling again. When Xiaosang's Haunter saw that Zahu's Jenga had finally evolved, he was shocked and secretly annoyed, thinking that he might not be able to beat this Haunter in the future. Chapter 219 Lugia's First Battle. Congratulations, Dr. Zahu, Xiaosang said. Although Zahu's Haunter evolved into Jenga, which would be disadvantageous to him in the next gym battle, as a trainer specialized in ghost-type Pokémon, especially Ghastly, Xiaosang would be happy for every Ghastly to become stronger. Especially this one. He gave it to Zahu. Seeing the active Jenga now, Xiaosang felt that his original decision was right, and Jenga was very happy. It's all Jenga's own efforts. Zahu smiled. As a trainer, he never competed with Pokémon for credit. Only excellent trainers can train excellent Pokémon, especially the command just now to grab Haunter's tongue. I didn't expect that tongue licking has this weakness, Xiaosang said. He only thought that tongue licking could close the distance, but forgot that tongue licking itself is a weakness. After all, Haunter is not a big tongue. If it is a big tongue, even if it is grabbed by someone, it can be pulled back. Okay, next, this guy will appear. Xiaosang threw out his last Pokémon, as expected, Jenga. Is it Jenga's showdown next? Kajiro said. Jenga vs. Jenga, it must be more interesting than the Haunter fight just now. Xiaozi said excitedly. As a teenager with a very low ignition point, just watching Zahu and Xiaosang's fight made his blood boil. Jenga, who listened to what Kajiro and Xiaozi said, immediately stood on the field excitedly, ready to fight, and complete a 3-in-a-row record. Wait a minute, Jenga is back. The next battle will be played by other companions. You have had enough fun. You should give the opportunity to your younger brothers. Zahu suddenly said. Brother? A strange thought popped up in Jenga's mind. Is there any Pokémon younger than him in the team? Lucario? No. Fighting type versus Ghost type. Isn't this asking for trouble? Oh, no. There is really a younger brother. Jenga suddenly remembered, showing the spirit of respecting the old and loving the young, and jumped back happily. Anyway, the old enemy has been defeated, and the next battle doesn't matter. You actually don't let Jenga continue to fight? I thought you were going to use one Jenga to defeat 3 of me, Xiaosang said in surprise. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't do it. Although Haunter evolved into Jenga, its power became stronger, but its body underwent a huge change. It suddenly had hands and feet, and because of a change in characteristics, its floating state disappeared. If it wants to float, it needs to use its own strength. So the tactics I set for it before basically have to be repeated. Now fighting against your Jenga, it will most likely lose, Zahu said with a smile. After the evolution of Pokémon, the overall strength will increase, but this requires a running-in period with the trainer. After the running-in period, it can improve rapidly. Otherwise, according to the old tactics, the improvement is not very obvious, and Jenga's change is so big that it may even have a counter effect. Zahu will naturally not do stupid things. Drive Zahu, you are really famous for your rationality. Then I look forward to Dr. Zahu's second Pokémon. Xiaosang said. Xiaoluo, come out and play. Zahu smiled and threw Lugia's Pokéball. Lugia flapped its wings and was slightly stunned. Do you want to fight? Xiaoluo, this is your first gym challenge. You must do your best. Zahu said. Little Lugia nodded vigorously, flew into the sky, glared at Jenga in front of him, and exuded an extraordinary aura. Lugia. Xiaosang, the gym trainer on the opposite side, screamed, looked at Zahu's Lugia with horror, and then looked at Zahu with horror. Is this what you said, brothers? This is also a younger brother? Are you kidding? This is the god of the sea. As a citizen of Johto, although Xiaosong is a believer in Ho-Oh, he is not unfamiliar with Lugia. As a result, Zahu actually captured Lugia. Xiaosong took a breath and looked at Zahu and Xiaozi. Before, when Zahu said that Xiaozi had seen Ho-Oh and Sukyun, Xiaosong was a little bit unconvinced, but now he believes it, and he believes it very much. The elder brother is a monster, and the younger brother is not a monster, but also a pervert. God, you are too unfair. We have been looking for these Pokémon for so many years, and this one was captured directly. Have you ever considered our feelings? Yes, I was lucky enough to capture him when I participated in the competition in the Whirlpool Islands. Let's start the competition now, Zahu said. Okay. Jenga, be careful. The opponent is a legendary beast. Use the strange light first, Xiaosong said. Sensing Lugia's magic, Jenga did not dare to take it lightly. Strange light emanated from his eyes, and dots of light flew towards Lugia. Xiaoluo, mysterious guard, Zahu said. Little Lugia's body surface emitted a light green light, and Jenga's light spots were directly bounced off when they fell on little Lugia. Xiaosong frowned slightly. As a professional trainer of Jenga's family, he, like anew, was best at special moves other than direct attacks, but a move of mysterious guard made all his calculations go wrong. Jenga, frontal attack, shadow ball, Xiaosong said. A purple-black wave ball with strong power condensed in Jenga's hands, and then suddenly hit little Lugia. Little Lugia, use mysterious guard first, and then hit the shadow ball back, Zahu said. Little Lugia didn't dodge or evade, but the green light on his body became stronger. When the shadow ball was about to hit, his right wing suddenly stretched out, and at the moment of contact, he hit the shadow ball back to Jenga with force. Jenga was caught off guard, and was hit by his own shadow ball, and fell against the wall. Zahu's mouth curled up slightly. In the game, the mysterious guard simply prevented the Pokémon from falling into a special state, but in reality it was not the case. The mysterious guard activated the beneficial genes in the whole body, automatically killing all factors and viruses that caused abnormal states, etc. But if the beneficial genes are so active, how could the body's defense not be improved? Like in the animation, Lugia's mother used the mysterious guard to block the attack for Xiaozi, and Xiaochen's Haxorus and the Smoke and Ink Gym also used the mysterious guard to block the attack of Charizard. As I said, theory is just theory. Next, the magical power, Zahu said. Little Lugia spread his wings, and the powerful telekinetic wave turned into a physical entity and rushed towards Jenga. At this moment, Jenga was attacked by his own shadow ball and could not move. He could only bear the power of little Lugia. The painful expression on his face became more intense. Jenga, shadow clone, Xiaosong said. After hearing this, Jenga immediately transformed into many clones. Jenga is extremely fast, powerful, and has various tricks. Many Pokémon have lost their combat ability before they even touch Jenga. However, there is a large landing point. The blood is too thin, and the defense is not good. First, he was hit by his own shadow ball, and then hit by the supernatural power of the attribute restraint. If he is hit by another supernatural power, he will lose his combat ability. Xiaolu, let it rain heavily, Zahu said. Little Lugia flapped his wings, dark clouds gathered, and heavy rain poured down, directly passing through the phantom. Only the entity was not penetrated by the rain. Divine Bird Smash. A blue glow appeared around the little Lugia, and it fell at the speed of thunder, hitting Jenga accurately, raising a large cloud of dust. When the dust settled, Jenga's eyes were all circles, and he lay powerlessly on the ground. Jenga Ui has lost his ability to fight. Zahu wins. The referee made a ruling. As expected of Dr. Zahu, this is the proof that you have defeated me. The Phantom Badge. Xiaosong took back Jenga reluctantly, walked towards Zahu, and handed the gym badge to Zahu. Thank you very much. If you have time in the future, let Jenga fight again. Zahu took back Lugia and said, okay. Xiaosong smiled. Xiaosong, I didn't expect that when I came back, I would see you lose a game first. At this time, a voice sounded at the door. Zayada-san turned around and saw a young man wearing a white cloak and elegant purple clothes standing there. He couldn't help but smile and said, "Minakun, is that you? You are finally back. Did you find Sukyun?" Chapter 220 Minakun Seeking Death. Minakun? Zahu raised his eyebrows slightly. He had a little impression that he was a fanatic who was crazy about chasing Sukyun and wanted to conquer it. How could that be? I haven't found Sukyun yet, Minakun said. By the way, Minakun, Zaozi has seen Ho-Oh and Sukyun. Zayada-song said. What? Seen Sukyun? Impossible, I don't believe it. Minakun suddenly turned around and looked at Zaozi, his eyes as sharp as a knife. But, I really saw it, Zaozi said weakly. Impossible, I know Sukyun better than anyone else. Minakun's expression revealed a hint of madness, and he glared at Zaozi fiercely and said, "Since you dare to say that, Zaozi, I want to prove whether you are a trainer worthy of being recognized by Sukyun. Let's have a competition." Huh. Zaozi and Pikachu looked at each other and scratched their heads awkwardly. Although he liked Pokémon Duel very much, he didn't really want to fight this kind of inexplicable duel, especially when he didn't know whether the opponent was strong enough. Brother Zahu, what's wrong with him? Why is he so excited? Zyaksha looked at Zahu strangely, feeling that this guy had a problem with his brain. Oh, he's just a guy who runs around the world all day long trying to find Sukyun, but Sukyun doesn't even bother to see him, so he's obsessed with it. He thinks that no one can get Sukyun except himself, and he doesn't want others to see Sukyun before him. Now that Zaozi has seen Sukyun, he can't help but start fighting. Zahu said. So that's the case, boss. Then he's really crazy. He just wants to find Sukyun, but Sukyun doesn't want to pay attention to him. Why is he so excited? Kajiro said. How can you people understand my feelings? All these years I have been looking for the traces of the legendary Pokémon Sukyun. Only by conquering him can I have evidence of my existence. Minakun turned around and roared after hearing what Zahu and the others said. Proof of existence? Then your existence is really humble. Zahu shook his head and said, I rejected your fight on behalf of Zaozi. He wants to challenge the gym competition and has no time to play these games with you and consume the physical strength of Pokémon. What did you say? Minakun turned and glared at Zahu. Why? What's the benefit of competing with you? Is Zaozi a trainer worthy of being recognized by Sukyun? Do you need to prove it? What qualifications do you have to prove it? It's better to say the other way around. Let Zaozi verify whether you are qualified to see Sukyun. Zahu said disdainfully. Who are you? Minakun said. Zayada-san. He is the famous Dr. Zahu, who took the video of Ho-Oh. Zayada-san introduced. Feeling helpless, he and Minakun have known each other for a long time and know that Minakun is usually fine, but he will lose his mind when he meets Sukyun. However, Dr. Zahu has always been soft and not hard. He became the youngest doctor in the league at the age of 12 and won the championship in the first trip at the age of 15. How can such a person say that he has no pride? The one who filmed the video of Ho-Oh. Minakun's expression changed slightly, staring at Zahu and said, Then do you dare to fight me? Fight with you? Zahu rolled his eyes and released Articuno, saying, You can fight it with any number of Pokémon you want, but if you want to fight, go out and fight. There are Pokémon battles in here, and I don't have time to command you to fight. Articuno? Minakun was surprised at first, and then his face turned red with anger, but soon Articuno flew out first, so he could only follow and plan to defeat Articuno first. Okay, Zayada-san. Zaozi will challenge you next. You should have other Pokémon, right? Zahu said. Of course I do. I also want to see what kind of strength a trainer who can be recognized by Sukyun has. Zayada-san smiled, and as soon as he finished speaking, a Ghastly emerged from the ground like a ghost. Normal gym trainers will have several sets of lineups to deal with the challenges of challengers, and Zayada-san is even more so. There are dozens of Ghastlies in the Scorched Tower next door, and there are also more than a dozen Jenga and Haunter at home. As long as Zayada-san wants, it is not a big problem to deal with 7 or 8 trainers a day. Mr. Zayada-san, I took the badge from you. Zaozi said passionately. Well, let's watch the show and see if Zaozi has any tricks. Zahu said to Kona. If Zyossi knew that you, as his brother, always regard his battles as a good show, I wonder if he would want to beat you? Kona said. He dares? Zahu glared. Beat him? Is Zyossi rebelling? I really don't know whether it is Zyos's greatest luck or the greatest bad luck in his life to have a brother like you. Kona said. I don't know this, but I know that having you is my greatest luck in my life. Zahu smiled. Slippery tongue. Kona smiled and rolled his eyes at Zahu, but his heart was as sweet as eating honey. Zyosha heard this, turned her head slightly, and looked at Zyossi who was fighting in the field, thinking, are these two really brothers? It's totally unscientific. Zyagang's eyes lit up. Is this the reason why idols can have girlfriends, but I'm still single? Thinking of this, Zyang frowned, as if he was making a huge decision. He gritted his teeth, and seemed to have made a decision, but he hadn't made it yet. Zyojiro asked a question first. Boss, that guy just chased Sukyun so hard, but is Sukyun so rare? I think it's easy for you to subdue the 3 sacred birds. Seeing this, Zyang had to keep silent and thought to himself that he would find an opportunity to ask and learn from others later. Do you think everyone is me? Besides, haven't we seen any of the 3 sacred beasts until now? Zahu asked back. Then boss, do you have any way to find the 3 sacred beasts? Zyojiro continued to ask. Others have been looking for so long, but I can find them if I want to. Do you think I'm omnipotent? Zahu shrugged and smiled. Isn't it? In Meow Meow's heart, the boss is omnipotent. Meow. Meow Meow said with an admiring expression. Don't flatter me. Even if you flatter me, I won't give you a raise. Zahu said. No, these are all from my heart. There is nothing in this world that the boss can't do. Everyone thinks so. Meow Meow's eyes were full of admiration. Zahu looked at the people around him and found that although Kochiro, Zyagagang, Zyuksha, Monini, and Guoran Weng didn't say anything, they all had expressions of approval. A sense of pride rose in his heart, and he moistened his throat and said, if we really want to find it, there are long-term and short-term. The long-term method is to search like Minakun. Of course, we can use tricks and follow Zyossi, and we will definitely find it. What about the short-term and fast method? Kona asked. She also wanted to know how to find the 3 sacred beasts, especially Sukyun. The water attribute is also her professional counterpart. For a quick and short-term solution, I only know one very inhumane method. Zahu raised his eyebrows slightly, looking through the window at the newly built bell tower not far away, and said, I told you about the burnt tower, but there was one thing I didn't say in detail. When the burnt tower was not burnt, there were 32 bells hanging. They were artifacts used by humans to communicate with the Phoenix King. In the fire of the burnt tower, 4 bells miraculously survived without any damage. I have heard of this saying, and now these 4 bells are still hanging in the newly built bell tower. The people of Yuansu City still believe that, as long as the bells of the bell tower ring again, it means that the Phoenix King will forgive humans, and is willing to return. But whether it is true or not, it cannot be confirmed now. Can shaking them call back Water King? Kona said. You can't make these bells ring. But if you smash them, you can call back Water King. Zahu said with a smile. Just smash it? Smashing the artifact that represents the friendship between humans and Ho-Oh is really inhumane. Even if it is found, it will only further widen the gap between humans and Ho-Oh, and make Ho-Oh even less trusting of humans. Kona said. So having a method is equal to having no method. Zahu laughed. In fact, what he said about inhumanity was not this, but the bell of the bell tower has the effect of soothing Pokémon. Once it is smashed, the Pokémon of the entire Vermilion City will riot, and the rejection of humans will rise to the peak, and humans and Pokémon will form a confrontation. At that time, if it cannot be properly resolved, Vermilion City will become the second crystallized green wilderness. Zahu said that Sukyun will appear, because although Ho-Oh left Vermilion City, he actually did not completely give up on humans. Otherwise he would not have created the 3 sacred beasts to watch the world. So at that time, Sukyun will come to appease and solve everything. So smashing the bell will attract Sukyun. But in this way, it is completely playing with fire, to attract Sukyun to put out the fire, which is no longer simply inhumane. If the relationship between humans and Pokémon is further hurt, Ho-Oh will really not do it, and the Johto region will really be affected. So although Zahu has always known that there is such a method, he has never thought of doing it. But Zahu and his friends did not expect that when they were talking, someone next to them also heard it. Chapter 221 Pokémon Riot. This is the Phantom Badge, proof that you beat me. After a fierce battle, he won in the end. Night Owl, in a rare highlight moment, realized a new trick of telekinesis at the last moment, defeated 2 Pokémon, Haunter and Jenga, and won another badge for Zyozzy. Mr. Komatsu, there is still Zyuksha to fight. Zyozzy said. There is another one to challenge. Komatsu showed a bitter smile on his face. Although he has several sets of Pokémon, it is very tiring to fight so continuously. However, as a gym trainer, he can still fight. Komatsu shook his head and prepared to continue fighting. Suddenly, a disciple ran over and said, Master, something bad has happened. The bell tower has been occupied by Pokémon. Occupied by Pokémon? Komatsu frowned and showed a surprised expression. Zahu, who was watching, had a drastic change of expression. He hurriedly ran outside the gym and found that in the forest around the bell tower not far away, countless insect Pokémon were on the branches and aimed at the bell tower to use silk. There is strength in numbers. This also applies to insects. The silk spinning of insect Pokémon is already powerful, let alone hundreds of them. The originally majestic tower was actually mostly covered with white silk threads, and it was about to be completely blocked. Bug Pokémon? Zyuksha couldn't help trembling when she saw the insect Pokémon in the entire forest. What's going on? Zyuksha said with a strange look on her face. The transparent bell was broken. Zahu said with a serious face. Such a sudden riot, and it surrounded the bell tower. There was no other possibility except that the transparent bell was broken. What transparent bell was broken? Who did it? Zyuksha was shocked and was about to rush towards the bell tower. As a result, just as he walked out of the gym, a vine whip suddenly attacked him. Zyuksha saw the opportunity early and quickly dodged it, only to find that the vine monsters were surrounding him with unfriendly eyes. Articuno, freeze ray. Zahu shouted to the Articuno flying freely in the sky. Articuno understood and sprayed a strong ice light from its mouth, sweeping all the way, freezing dozens of vine monsters into ice cubes. Molten, you use the jet of fire to drive away these insects. Zahu threw Moltres' Pokeball and said, wait a minute, Zahu, if you use the jet of fire here, it may cause a forest fire. Kona stopped Zahu's behavior and said, that's right, Moltres, stop attacking first. Zahu said. Moltres heard the words and immediately absorbed the flames that were about to be sprayed out of its mouth into its mouth. You can't use fire, you can only freeze it. Articuno, let's do it together. Zahu looked up at Articuno, their eyes met, and they resonated in an instant. Articuno's body flashed with ice light, forming a super evolution, like an ice phoenix, and the originally clear sky suddenly snowed heavily. Even though the Pokémon in the forest were all in a frenzy, at this time, they couldn't help but have some natural fear and shrank back subconsciously. Zahu and the others breathed a sigh of relief, but before they could completely relax, a strong energy wave came from their side, and Minakun and Ahudi suddenly appeared beside them. The insect Pokémon that had just calmed down saw Minakun appear, and immediately fell into a riot again, rushing towards Zahu and the others fiercely, and vomiting white silk from their mouths. Did you smash the transparent bell? Zahu stared at Minakun who had just appeared with a gloomy face, with anger hidden in his eyes. As soon as Minakun came out, these insect Pokémon rioted again. If it wasn't Minakun who did it, then there must be something fishy. This is to find Suicune. Minakun saw this scene, although his face was a little unnatural, but he still insisted. To find Suicune? Zahu's eyes were even more angry. He originally thought that Minakun just touched the transparent bell accidentally. Although he was very dissatisfied, he would not really attack Minakun. But from what Minakun said, it was clear that he had just overheard their conversation and took the initiative to smash the transparent bell. Do you really want to subdue Suicune? Zahu laughed angrily. Subduing it is my lifelong wish. As long as I subdue it, I can communicate with it. Tell Ho-Oh that we humans have changed and let it come back again. Minakun said confidently. Bullshit. Zahu couldn't stand it anymore, kicked Minakun in the stomach, and kicked him to the ground. You are so unscrupulous, in order to subdue Sukyun. What's the difference between you and those people who wanted to subdue and control Ho-Oh? The reason why Ho-Oh is still unwilling to come back is that there are too many people like you. Ho-Oh feels dirty, understand? Idiot. No, I'm different from those people. It's all because of you. It's you who said that if the bell is smashed, Sukyun will appear, so I did it. It's all because of you. Minakun pointed at Zahu in disbelief. A clown who deceives himself. Zahu shook his head in disdain. In the animation, the Rocket Trio smashed the transparent bell, which led to the current riot. So Sukyun appeared to appease the Pokémon, but before the matter was completely resolved, this guy wanted to subdue Sukyun like a demon, and was finally educated by Sukyun. Don't worry about him, solve the problem in front of you first. The range of these insect Pokémon spinning silk is getting wider and wider. When the entire bell tower is finished, the entire Yuansu city will become a world surrounded by silk threads. Kona frowned and said, she was a little helpless now. These Pokémon were in riots because of Minakun's suicide. They were innocent themselves, and she couldn't hurt all of them. Especially these Pokémon may be related to the King of Phoenix. If they attack these Pokémon, the King of Phoenix will be angry and abandon humans from then on. The consequences are too great, so great that even she, the 4 Heavenly Kings, can't suppress it. It may even be attacked from the position of the 4 Heavenly Kings. I don't know what to do now. Theoretically, Sukyun should come out at this time, but that's just a theory. Who knows if Sukyun will go out halfway, so I never thought of using this method to lure Sukyun out. Zahu said. Boss, is your judgment wrong? Those Perists are about to spread the paralysis powder. Kajiro exclaimed. Zahu's face changed, and he saw that the Perist in front of him began to spread a large amount of paralysis powder. He hurriedly said, Articuno, use Blizzard to blow away the paralysis powder and freeze them, but don't hurt them. Articuno's wings vibrated, and immediately ice and snow flew, freezing all the Perist in front of him. The attack on this side was stopped, but Zahu had no idea how to deal with it next. Although with the power in his hands, he could easily beat the Pokémon in the forest, but if Articuno and the others attacked with all their strength, I'm afraid that few of these Pokémon in the forest would survive. While hesitating, he suddenly heard a majestic roar coming from the sky, mighty, with unstoppable anger and the domineering and noble majesty of a king. When the Pokémon in the forest heard this roar, they all trembled, and automatically made way, as if they had met a king. Sukyun. Minakun looked at the horizon with a fanatical face, eager to see Sukyun, and then subdue him. No, this sound is wrong. It's not Sukyun's. Zahu shook his head solemnly. Sukyun's body should be a wolf, and it shouldn't roar like this. Instead, it sounds like a lion's roar. Just as he was thinking, Zahu saw a fiery red dazzling light rushing from far to near on the horizon, jumping on the branches of the forest, and in the blink of an eye, a mighty lion with flames burning all over its body stood in front of Zahu, and others with domineering or roaring, sound waves rolling, stirring up wind and waves, and scratching Zahu and others' cheeks painfully. Emperor entry, Minakun exclaimed, why not Sukyun? As he spoke, Minakun looked at Zahu again and said, why not Sukyun? How do I know, if you ask me? Zahu said unhappily, but he was also puzzled. What happened? Shouldn't Sukyun be the one to appease? Why is it Emperor entry? This is not a good thing. Although Emperor entry, Sukyun, and Reikau are all Pokémon created by the King of Phoenix, and their strengths are similar, they are on par with each other, but their personalities are very different. Sukyun is the kindest, while Emperor entry is the easiest to get angry and the most domineering. After all, among the 3 sacred beasts, Sukyun is a wolf, Reikau is a leopard, and Emperor entry is a lion, and the lion itself is the king of all beasts, and all beasts obey his orders. Therefore, Emperor entry is also the most untouchable of the 3 sacred beasts. Chapter 222, Duel with Emperor Yan. Dirty humans, who of you deliberately smashed the transparent bells? Entity shouted in Elvish. Deliberately? Zahu's heart shuddered. Is this the difference? In the animation, although the Rocket Trio stole the transparent bells, which was also immoral, they did not deliberately smash the bells. Their original intention was just to sell them for money. However, when ringing the bells, the reckless Musashi accidentally smashed them. But Minakun was different. He did it on purpose, and with the intention of capturing Sukyun. He knew that these were bells for communicating with the King of Phoenix, representing the King of Phoenix's last expectations for humans, but he still smashed them. So in the former case, Sukyun came forward to appease the rioting Pokémon, and left after appeasement. And in the latter case, it was Entei who came forward. Despicable humans. You don't deserve to own this world. It was like this back then, and it is still like this now. Get out of this city. This place belongs to the Pokémon. Entei roared, and then spurted out a raging flame from his mouth, directly spraying towards Zahu and others. The flaming bird in the sky immediately flew down, blocking Zahu and others, bathing in the flames, with a bird cry, and its wings vibrated, directly shattering all the flames. Seeing that the flaming bird actually took his flames, Yandy's eyes flashed with anger, his back arched, and violent flames burst out from his body, spraying towards the flaming bird all over the sky. The surrounding forest trees were burning fiercely, and in the blink of an eye, there was a sea of fire. The Pokémon that were originally somewhat calm in the forest, fell into a frenzy, attacking frantically, almost turning into a beast-tide. Sister, this damn Yandy didn't come to persuade the fight, but instead became the leader of the trouble. Zahu cursed in a low voice, the difference between fire and water is too big. Zoluo, Zapdos, and Haxorus all come out and pray for rain with Articuno to extinguish the flames here and then appease the Pokémon here. Zahu threw all the Pokémon out. Yandy is no longer reliable and he can only rely on himself next. Lugia and the others quickly rose to the sky and the mysterious power spread all around. The sky suddenly changed, the wind and clouds surged, and waves of terrifying pressure came, making people feel as if the god was angry. Although the 4 Pokémon have not become gods, they are all known as gods, especially in terms of manipulating the weather, which they are the best at. The terrifying rainstorm fell with a bang, as if a hole had opened in the sky. The rolling rain fell, and the fire was crushed in the bud before it formed. Merlips, Dragonite, use the healing bell to appease the Pokémon here. Kona also released Merlips and Dragonite. Feeling the urgency of the situation, Merlips and Dragonite sang with all their might, and the soothing and beautiful singing came out of their mouths, like fairy music, soothing the most irritable emotions in the hearts of humans and Pokémon. Many restless Pokémon in the forest regained a trace of clarity in their eyes, and were unwilling to fight again. Seeing this scene, Kona smiled with relief. The healing bell can soothe people's hearts and calm riots. It is most appropriate to use it at this moment. But just when Kona's heart was put down, a domineering roar came, directly covering the singing of Sister Lip and Dragonite, and saw that Entei was staring at her with anger. Entei is actually a good person by nature. As the messenger of the Phoenix King, he represents the life will of the Phoenix King. In the animation, he also came forward to save Zaozi and others. However, that's it. It's okay if he doesn't get angry. Once he gets angry, it's not easy for Sister Lip and Dragonite to appease him. It's almost the same if it's Celebi. Entei, don't be angry. We don't want to hurt you. The people of Yuansu City admit their mistakes. Zaozi stood in front of Entei and persuaded him. But before he finished speaking, Entei blew another mouthful of flames. The angry Entei didn't care about anything. Fortunately, Moltres blocked it in time, so Zaozi didn't get hurt. Don't make trouble for me. Go to the Pokémon Center with Kichiro and ask the teacher to teleport Jigglypuff over. Also, contact Miss Joy and ask all the nearby Jigglypuffs that can heal with the bells to gather together. When Jigglypuff is hypnotized successfully, let them heal. Zahu cursed angrily and handed Lucario's Pokéball to Zahu. Okay. Zaozi nodded repeatedly, and then, along with Xiaoxia, Xiaogang, and Kichiro, the 5 of them ran to the Pokémon Center without stopping. Xiaosong, let me take care of Entei. You take care of the rest of the Pokémon. You are the lineage that worships the Phoenix King and the Bell Tower. There must be more than you now. Let them come over. If you don't show your ability, the Phoenix King will really give up on you. Zahu said. Okay. Xiaosong agreed without saying a word, tacitly accepting Zahu's leadership at the moment. Entei was burning with flames and wanted to attack, but before he could attack, he was taken to a gym on the side by Moltres, a divine bird. If two fire beasts fight in the forest, it will definitely cause a forest fire, set the mountain on fire, and be sentenced to life in prison. Moltenzog, you have been using the divine bird continuously to keep Yandy away from the forest. Today, I will beat it up. Zahu said. What are you talking about, human? Yandy roared angrily and said to Moltenzog, you are also a divine beast, but you obey the orders of humans. It's a shame. Hearing the shame, Moltenzog immediately became furious, and the flames wrapped its whole body, and then added a divine bird, and attacked Yandy with 2 attacks. Yandy burst out with a big word explosion. The temperature was hot, and the power was powerful. Although there is more than one Yandy in the world, the Yandy in Chengdu is the earliest one, and also the strongest one. However, Moltenzog didn't care at all, and attacked head on. The flame shield outside offset most of the big word explosion, and then the divine bird hit Yandy. Yandy felt pain and roared, but immediately turned over, and continued to fight, with strange flames burning on his body, and attacked the Moltenzog quickly. Sideways, whirlwind dance. Zahu said. This flame is not an ordinary flame, but a sacred fire. In the whole world, only Ho-Oh and Entei can use it. To be more precise, only Ho-Oh can use it. Unlike the simple 100 attack trick in the game, it is the strongest fire type trick. It contains terrifying life force. When Ho-Oh uses it, it can not only kill Pokémon, but also bring Pokémon back to life. And because Entei is a fire attribute, when he was resurrected by the sacred fire, he got some fire seeds, and learned this trick. Although the power is not comparable to that of Ho-Oh, it is not something that Moltres can easily absorb. It is a flame that Moltres must not touch. Moltres also felt a hint of danger from the flame on Entei's body. He did not dare to act impulsively. He raised his left wing and dodged sideways. Seeing that his ultimate move was dodged by Moltres, the Entei's anger, which had already reached its peak, rose again. He was completely selfless and used the holy fire continuously. After 2 times, his speed began to decrease, and he began to run out of energy. Molten, it's done. Start harvesting. Zahu smiled. You can't use too much power. That doesn't belong to you. But it's a pity that the Entei didn't understand this at all. After dodging several times in a row, the impatient Moltres heard Zahu finally give the attack order, and immediately counter-attacked with joy, fully displaying the results of his usual training, changing the direction of the battle at once, and the Entei began to be ruthlessly beaten. Zahu's mouth curled up slightly. This scene was within his expectations. Although Moltres and Entei were both third-class divine beasts, the worst divine beasts. But even third-class divine beasts are divided into 3, 6, and 9 levels. Among these third-class divine beasts, the 3 divine birds are higher than the 3 divine beasts. The reason is simple. The 3 divine birds are divine beasts naturally generated by heaven and earth, while the 3 holy beasts are divine messengers created by the Phoenix King. So the 3 sacred birds dared to beat up Lugia on Asia Island, and the 3 sacred beasts would not dare to touch Ho-Oh, even if they had 10 times the courage. It's like the 3 sacred pillars can only be grandsons in front of Regichicus. In the Sinnoh region, the 3 sacred pillars were dragged by Regichicus to be human shields, and they followed one after another, not daring to resist at all. After dealing with Entei, Zahu turned to look at the battle on the forest side, and found that with the efforts of Kona and others, the Pokémon gradually calmed down, but they were still in turmoil. It was not so easy to calm down in a short time. I was worried, and suddenly I saw a truck coming. Before I realized what was going on, the compartment behind the truck suddenly opened, and then the light flashed, and I saw that the lights, microphones, loudspeakers and other equipment were all available inside, just like a big Stars activity stage. In the center of the light, Jigglypuff stepped on the ground with his short feet, responding to the beat, wearing sunglasses from nowhere, holding the microphone and singing proudly. The singer had the aura of a star singer. The melodious singing quickly spread throughout the city with the help of loudspeakers. At that moment, the rioting Pokémon and the busy staff thought the singing was nice at first, but before they could appreciate it, they were all enveloped by a strong sense of sleepiness and soon fell into a daze. After the singing continued for 10 minutes, Jigglypuff once again completed the feat of massacring the city. Chapter 223, The Arrival of the Phoenix King. Barley Jigglypuff finished singing his song perfectly and found that all the Pokémon were asleep, but he did not feel angry or dissatisfied, but flew happily to Zahoo. He had not seen Zahoo for a while and missed him a lot. Good boy, this time it's all your credit. Zahoo praised Jigglypuff while touching his head. Barley Jigglypuff happily rubbed Zahoo's arms. Zahoo shook his head with a little pampering and looked down at Entei, who fell asleep after being sung by Jigglypuff. For a moment, he didn't know how to treat this Entei. Although he was only a third-class mythical beast, Zahoo really wanted to subdue him. It was just a pity that Entei's boss was Ho-Oh, and Zahoo didn't want to provoke him. This world is shared by humans and Pokémon, especially the mythical beasts. In a sense, they represent nature and cannot be moved. If Ho-Oh really completely hates humans, Zahoo can hardly imagine what will happen. At this moment, there was a sudden rapid chirping in the sky. Zahoo frowned slightly, because Articuno's super evolution had increased its strength and was bound to his soul. He didn't fall asleep, and Articuno didn't fall asleep either, becoming one of the only 3 in the city that didn't fall asleep. Now that it made such a rapid chirping, it meant that an extremely powerful Pokémon had arrived. There were only a handful of Pokémon that could make Articuno feel powerful. With an answer in mind, Zahoo looked up and saw a beautiful rainbow passing through the sky. A huge colorful turkey, oh no, Phoenix King, was flying over. Its wings vibrated, the light shone, and dots of light fell on Yandy. Yandy immediately woke up and shook his big head unconsciously. When he saw Zahoo, he subconsciously bared his teeth and wanted to retaliate. However, when he saw Phoenix King here, he immediately stopped the struggle and ran over. Hello, Phoenix King. Zahoo waved to Phoenix King and said hello. Although he felt that Phoenix King was a little ugly, he couldn't resist his strong strength. Moreover, it contains the power of life and has the ability to bring people and Pokémon back to life. It is definitely a bug among bugs, and it must be properly respected. The King of Phoenix glanced at Lugia, the 3 mythical birds, and Zyozzy on the ground, then looked at Zahoo and said, Human trainer, you are very good. You can get the wholehearted recognition of the 4 mythical beasts. Thank you for the compliment. Zahoo smiled. Although there are all kinds of teasing about the King of Phoenix, the title of photographer is almost as much as the joke that Groudon can't fly, but it must be said that the King of Phoenix is still very strong. Especially this one, which was worshipped by humans more than 300 years ago. Not only is it powerful, but it is also very powerful in terms of knowledge. It is an honor for any trainer to get its recognition. There is one thing I need you to help me with, the King of Phoenix said. Just say it, I will help if I can. Zahoo said straightforwardly. It is rare to have such a chance to make such a mythical beast do you a favor. These mythical beasts generally won't cheat people, and they are all of a relatively pure type. The wings of the Phoenix King fluttered, and a colorful wing naturally fell in front of Zahoo. Zahoo reached out to take it, and a trace of surprise emerged in his heart. What does this mean? According to legend, anyone who gets the wings of the Phoenix King is a trainer recognized by the Phoenix King, and is called the Rainbow Hero. Does the Phoenix King recognize me now? This is my feather. As long as you are not killed by Arceus and the others, the rest can bring you back to life once. The Phoenix King said. Zahoo's eyes lit up. What a good thing. It can bring you back to life. It's a divine object. You are the second person I have given wings to in the past 300 years. The Phoenix King said. The second one. The first one was my younger brother Zyozzy. Zahoo said. Ho-Oh nodded, looked at Zyozzy and said, he is the one who loves Pokémon the most among all the humans I have met in the past 300 years. He even makes me feel a little like the legendary Altis. Legend? Do you mean that there is more than one Ho-Oh? Zahoo asked curiously. According to Ho-Oh, she seemed to have never seen the original Altis, which means that this Ho-Oh is not the same as the one back then. No, I'm different from Lugia. There is only one Ho-Oh, but we both have our own lifespans. Every time we are about to die, we will choose to burn ourselves and give birth to new Ho-Ohs. That's why humans at that time wanted to control me, because I'm only 500 years old. Strictly speaking, I'm a child. Ho-Oh said. 500 years, child? Zahoo raised his eyebrows. Well, we are not the same species. Let's get back to the point. I was very dissatisfied with the human beings back then, so I created the 3 holy beasts and let them travel around the world for me to observe the human beings' behavior and see if the human beings have repented. However, I'm not satisfied with the behavior of the human beings in the Johto region over the years, so I have created many more 3 holy beasts one after another. Now there are 3 in each continent to observe the human beings for me and decide which region to let me survive in the end, said the King of Phoenix. Zahu said nothing, thinking, you really want to move? Who are you going to fight? However, because many human behaviors cannot be observed by Pokémon in detail, it is not clear, so I chose your brother and let him become my first human messenger to observe the world for me. But I found that his strength seems to be a little lower than yours, so I plan to let you become my messenger and take me to see the world, said the King of Phoenix. No problem. Zahu responded, isn't it just traveling around the world? Even if you don't say it, I will do it. I got a magic weapon that can bring back the dead for free. Beautiful. In addition, this Yandy, I will give it to you, said the King of Phoenix. Enti is for me, Zahu said in surprise. You gave me a divine weapon and a divine beast. Ho-oh. You are not the reincarnation of Santa Claus, are you? That's right. I don't plan to live in this area of Johto anymore, so Enti and the other 2 don't need to walk here anymore. I fly over various continents all year round, and they can't keep up with me, so I plan to let them follow the trainer. Enti, let's go with you. You beat it, so you should have tamed it. Of course, if you don't want it, you can refuse. Ho-Oh said. I want it, Zahu said without hesitation. Who wouldn't want a divine beast given for free? If you want it, you must take it with you when you travel in various regions in the future. Ho-Oh said. No problem. Zahu agreed readily and waved his hand proudly at Enti. Although Enti was a little dissatisfied, he could only lower his head helplessly when Ho-Oh spoke. By the way, Enti is for me, but what about Suicune and Reikao? Which trainer will you give them to? Zahu asked curiously. He didn't expect to give them all to him, because if he said that all of them would be given to him, the Ho-Oh would have said it directly, but he only said that Enti would give them to him, which meant that the other 2 had nothing to do with him. In that case, of course, he didn't have to think too much about it. Although it would be great to subdue the 3 sacred beasts and complete the set, it would be no big deal if they couldn't be complete. He was just instinctively curious about the whereabouts of the other 2. Suicune likes your brother, so let Suicune go with him. Suicune will wait for him at the place where he first met him. When he wakes up, tell him that you should also take Suicune with you wherever you go in the future. As for Reikao, he also has his favorite trainer and will find him by himself, the Ho-Oh said. Suicune for Zyoshe. Zahu looked at Zyoshe, who was unconscious, with a surprised face. You're not mistaken. Although one Suicune is nothing special, it's not a small matter for Zyoshe to have Suicune. As we all know, Zyoshe's protagonist Halo is flawed. For example, he keeps winning small competitions, but he can't win a single big competition. He also keeps encountering sacred beasts, but he doesn't take any of them. But now Zyoshe has started to capture legendary beasts. How can this be tolerated? You know, the legendary beasts that Zyoshe has encountered along the way are unimaginable. If one day, this guy suddenly gets wise and yells during a game, all the Pokémon I helped, come and help me win this game, can he handle it? Zahu took a breath. If he called Kyogre and Groudon, he would still be a little confident. After all, Lugia can grow up and may not be weaker than them in the end. But if he called Arceus, would he have to fight with his head? What are you thinking about? Ho-Oh looked at Zahu strangely and said, no, I just want to carefully observe the situation in various regions in the future and choose the place that suits you best. Ho-Oh, there is one thing I want to tell you. Not all humans want to control Pokémon, but more want to be friends with Pokémon. If you have time, you can go to the nearby Alola region to see that most people there are like this. Zahu said. Alola region? It seems to be the only place where I haven't got the 3 entry yet. I'll go check it out after I finish here. Ho-Oh said. Okay, bye then. Zahu said. Bye. Ho-Oh nodded, flapped its wings, and disappeared into the sky, leaving only a beautiful rainbow. Zahu blessed it sincerely. This is the best legendary beast, no doubt about it. Look, both have a race value of 680. Mewtwo's brain circuit has never been normal. Lugia, I helped it solve a huge crisis, but there was no thank you at all. Unlike Ho-Oh, I did almost nothing for it, but he gave it a divine weapon and a legendary beast. A role model for legendary beasts. If Kyogre and the others were like this, it would be great. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224 Perfect Solution. Zyos, he is ecstatic. Little Entry, come here. Zahu pointed his finger at Entry. Entry growled in dissatisfaction and walked towards Zahu unwillingly. Well, you don't have to be so dissatisfied. Follow me and you can keep getting stronger. Do you want to be as strong as Moltres? In the future, obey my orders and accept my training. I will train you to be the strongest Entry. Zahu said with a wolf grandmother smile. I'm the strongest Entry. Entry replied dissatisfiedly. He was the first to be created by the King of Phoenix, so he is basically the strongest. That's not necessarily true. You haven't seen other Entry. Besides, when the King of Phoenix created you, he might not have enough experience. The Entry created later may be more experienced and better. Zahu said. Entry lowered his head to think, and thought that it was really possible, and he couldn't help showing a thoughtful expression. So, become my companion in the future. Don't get angry easily. We are all friends. Zahu said with a smile. Entry nodded, indicating his agreement. Ho-Oh said that he would let it follow Zahu, and see the world clearly together. It had to agree, even if it didn't want to, not to mention that Zahu had defeated it before. The winner is the king. It is only natural that he could defeat it and become its trainer. Then, come in. Zahu threw a Pokeball, and Entry was absorbed directly without any resistance. Zahu took out the Pokémon encyclopedia that he had hardly opened, pressed a key at the back, and a Pokeball on his waist disappeared automatically. According to the rules of the Pokémon world, Pokémon trainers traveling abroad can only carry 6 Pokémon. Because Zahu is a doctor, he has a special quota for the doctor, so he has 3 more Pokémon, but now he has exceeded 9. So in order to prevent Entry from being teleported back, he had to teleport the Pokeball of Gurren in advance. After a long time, the sleeping Pokémon and humans gradually woke up. After waking up, the Pokémon no longer attacked humans and consciously retreated back to the forest, and humans naturally stopped attacking. Brother, is everything resolved? Zyos, in the truck, jumped down as soon as he woke up, and asked Zahu impatiently. Of course, now the Pokémon have retreated, and peace has returned to Yuansu City. Zahu said. All this is thanks to Dr. Zahu. Zyao-san said after waking up. Thanks to me. Zahu looked at Zyao-san with a strange expression, thinking, if I tell him that the Ho-Oh they believe in has decided to leave Johto completely because of Minakun, and Minakun smashed the bell because he eavesdropped on me, will he come to chop me? Of course it's you. If you hadn't suppressed Entry, this matter would not have been resolved. Kona looked around and didn't see Entry, so she said, Entry woke up first and came over? Yes. Zahu nodded. Now there are so many people talking, it's better to hide the matter of Entry for now. It's a pity that I only saw Entry and didn't see Suicune. Kona said with a little regret. Among the 3 sacred beasts, her favorite is Suicune of the water system. Zahu still kept a smile on his face, thinking in his heart, after Zyos captures him, you can see him whenever you want. Yeah, where's Suicune? Didn't you say that if you smash the bell, Suicune will appear? Minakun looked at Zahu like a madman. Zahu frowned and said nothing. He almost forgot about the culprit, and said in a deep voice, when did I tell you? Eavesdropping on conversations will lead to mischief. The transparent bell is a prop for the emotional connection between humans and Ho-Oh. If it is accidentally destroyed, it will cause the Pokémon to riot. Ho-Oh will let the 3 sacred beasts to comfort it. Suicune has the gentlest personality, so he is most likely to come to comfort it. But if the person who smashes it is full of greed, it will attract the angriest of the 3 sacred beasts, Entei, to punish you, the greedy person. Yes, Minakun, I will report your behavior today to the Johto Alliance. I will apply to the Johto Alliance to revoke your identity as a researcher and punish you for your behavior. Kona's pretty face was frosty. Today, the humans in Yuansu City almost fought a war with Pokémon. It was all caused by Minakun's momentary greed, and he must be severely punished. That's right, Minakun, you are not worthy of studying Sukyun anymore. Next, prison awaits you. An elder from the Enju gym said sternly. He didn't know that because of Minakun, the Ho-Oh completely abandoned the Johto region. If he knew, I'm afraid that even death would be a luxury for Minakun. How is it possible? Minakun sat on the ground with a pale face. Kona replied to the alliance, and his researcher status was basically ruined. And the words of this person from the Enju gym made his future even bleak. Although the line of people who worship the Ho-Oh has declined, a lean camel is bigger than a horse, especially when Minakun made such a big mistake. After he goes in, if there is no accident, he will not be able to get out within 20 years. But who can say what will happen in 20 years? How many 20 years are there in a person's life? But at this time, no one has time to care about him. As for the gym match between Xiaosang and Xiaoxia, Xiaosang didn't care at this time, and directly gave the gym badge to Xiaoxia, saying that he was grateful for Xiaoxia's help in fighting against these Pokémon, especially the fact that she was afraid of bug Pokémon during the process, but she still stood up to protect Pokémon, which made him believe that Xiaoxia was a good trainer. Xiaoxia was of course overjoyed, and she got a badge for nothing, otherwise she would not be sure to beat Xiaosang's 3 Pokémons in a real fight. Who made her the only Pokémon that could use superpowers and tricks was Psyduck. In this way, Zahu and a few others said goodbye to Xiaosang and his group, and walked towards the road leading to Kaji Gym. When it was time to cook in the evening, Zahu saw that there was silence around and no one was around. So he said solemnly, don't cook for now. Next, I'm going to announce something big. Big thing. What big thing? Could it be that you, the boss, have conquered Entei? Meow. Meow Meow said indifferently. Zahu turned his head and looked at Meow Meow in disbelief. This guy's mouth is really blessed. You didn't really subdue Entei, did you? Kona said in astonishment. Zahu's expression clearly showed that he was right. Zahu shrugged and threw out Entei's Pokeball. In the open space, a ball of fire burned, and Entei appeared domineeringly, looking around majestically. Seeing Entei appear in front of them, Xiaoxi and the others were all shocked. Even Kona opened his mouth in surprise. This was too exaggerated. He subdued Entei just like that? Are you surprised? Then what if I tell you that I just saw Ho-Oh? Zahu smiled. Looking at the surprised expressions of this group of people, especially Kona, he felt a sense of accomplishment. Ho-Oh. What happened? Kona asked impatiently, regretting that he didn't see it. Don't panic, let me tell you from the beginning. Zahu told the previous story calmly without any hurry. You said that the King of Phoenix decided to abandon the humans in the Johto area and choose to live in a new place, so he chose you and Xiaoxi to be the Rainbow Warriors and gave you Entei and Sukyun. Kona said in shock. Yes, brother, if I go home now and walk through the forest, I can get Sukyun? Xiaoxi was even more ecstatic. Sukyun, that's a divine beast. There is only one divine beast in the whole city, the incarnation of the North Wind. I can have one too. Finally, I don't have to envy my brother. I can have a divine beast too. Xiaoxi is going to have Sukyun. Xiaoxia's eyes were full of tears, and she looked at Xiaoxi with envy and jealousy. Why didn't the King of Phoenix choose me, who loves water Pokémon, and is the future master of water? I also want to have a Sukyun, even if it shortens my life by 10 years. Kajiro, Meowth, and Xiaogang all had the same expression of resentment. Looking at Xiaoxi, Zahu was okay, he already had one, but how was Xiaoxi better than them? It's not fair. Brother, I'll go back now. Xiaoxi couldn't help but said. Now he just wanted to go back and find Sukyun to play together. There are conditions for wanting Sukyun. No matter where you travel to in the future, you must always bring Sukyun with you and take good care of it so that the Ho-Oh can feel the warmth of humans and not completely abandon humans. Zahu said. No problem. Zyozzy promised solemnly. He was good at caring for Pokémon. As for traveling together, there was no problem. Seeing Zyozzy's proud look, Zahu shook his head helplessly. In fact, he was a little envious of Zyozzy. Although it is said that the strongest among the 3 sacred beasts is Entry, because he is a fire type and has obtained the sacred fire of the Ho-Oh, Suicune has a better personality and a smooth back. He can ride with Kona, unlike Entry, who has spikes on his back and can only be ridden by one person. Okay, don't get excited. It's too slow for you to walk back. It's better to go to a town in front, take the train back, and then take the train back. Otherwise, you may not be able to collect all 8 badges before the start of the Silver Conference. Zahu said. Okay. Zyozzy nodded his head frantically. Now he was in a state of enthusiasm. He would agree to whatever Zahu said. Zahu shook his head and decided not to talk to Zyozzy at this time. He would wait until Zyozzy calmed down before giving him some instructions. Chapter 225 Reunion with Xiaomao. After successfully solving the crisis in Yuansu City and conquering Yandi, Zahu and his group were very proud. They walked to an open plain, stopped to rest, and prepared to cook. After eating, they went to the train station in front to send Zyozzy and the other 2 away. I want to conquer Suicune. I want to conquer Suicune. Seeing that he was about to get on the train and return to the forest to conquer Suicune, Zyozzy was so excited that he danced with joy and sang a completely untuned song. If that could really be considered a song. Zahu couldn't bear it anymore and scolded him angrily. Shut up, isn't it just a Suicune? Are you so happy? It's not you who conquered it, but the King of Phoenix pity you. Zahu scolded Zyozzy, and Zyuksha and the others were very happy to hear it, because they were very stimulated. But Zahu's words were just a Suicune, right? It made Zyuksha and the others feel even more heartbroken. It was really a full man who didn't know the hunger of a hungry man. If they could be given a divine beast, they would definitely be more excited than Zyozzy. That means you'll become my partner. I can't stop being happy when I think of this. Zyozzy said happily, jumping up and down. Zahu shook his head. If you're so reckless, be careful of getting hit by a car. Just as the thought flashed through his mind, Zahu heard a familiar and urgent voice. Get out of the way. Before Zahu could react, he saw a black shadow flashing in front of him and suddenly hit Zyozzy. Zyozzy fell 3 or 4 meters away with a bang. Zahu looked up and saw a wind speed dog standing there majestically, and behind it, the person who was standing on a skateboard and holding it with a rope was Xiaomao. Huh. It's Zyozzy and brother Zahu? Xiaomao was also surprised and secretly relieved in his heart. They were on the same side, so it was okay to get hit. What are you doing? Zahu looked at Xiaomao's strange outfit in surprise. Oh, I'm preparing for tomorrow's race. Xiaomao replied. Speed race? What is this? Zyozzy ran over with a curious look on his face. Although he was hit hard by the wind speed dog just now, it was nothing for him, a super newbie. It's a race where Pokémon drag people on skateboards. Zahu explained unhappily. Although he had just arrived, it was obvious to see Xiaomao like this. Yes, it's such a race. Xiaomao affirmed. Okay, since it's like this, we can't eat this meal. Let's go to the town in front and find a restaurant to eat. Xiaomao, you treat us. Zahu said. Ah, I treat you? Xiaomao blinked. What kind of operation is this? Look for yourself. Zahu looked to the side. Because Xiaomao's wind speed dog ran fast, it brought a flow of wind, resulting in a lot of weeds in the broth. Ah. Xiaomao said embarrassedly, after seeing the situation clearly. Okay, I treat you. Xiaomao came here earlier than Zahu and his friends, so he was familiar with the situation here. He quickly found a restaurant for Zahu and his friends, and treated them to a meal. Zahu was not polite to Xiaomao at all. Although he and Zyozzy were both younger brothers in his heart, unlike Zyozzy, who was still poor and had to rely on him for support, Xiaomao didn't know how many generations of wealth he had. He drove a sports car when he went out first. If he didn't spend money on such a rich man, who would he spend it on? When it was time to pay the bill, Xiaomao looked at the bill and felt a pang of pain. This meal was equivalent to his usual 4 or 5 days of consumption. Originally, Xiaomao wanted to do hard training on this trip, so he didn't drive a sports car, didn't bring beautiful women, and although he still brought a lot of money, it was much less than before. Looking at Zahu's eyes full of resentment, although it was said that he accidentally ruined Zahu's lunch, but who was Zahu? A famous doctor of the Alliance, a leader of the younger generation of academic circles in Kanto City. How could he let a 10-year-old child with no source of income pay for it? Under Xiaomao's resentful eyes, Zahu picked his teeth leisurely, not panicking at all. As an adult, how could he play with his younger brother without thick skin? Brother Zahu, it's a rare opportunity for us to meet. Why don't we just have a fight? A Pokémon showdown. Xiaomao finally gave up the idea of using his eyes to make Zahu feel guilty and chose to vent his anger through fighting. I want to have a fight with you. Okay, which one do you want to use? Zahu said. Moonling, my Eevee has evolved. In addition, brother Zahu, you also have to use the Pokémon you just captured to fight me, not Articuno. Xiaomao said. He also knew that there was still a big gap between his strength and Zahu's. If he cared the strongest, he would have no hope even against Blastoise, so he had to use the newly captured ones. No problem. Zahu nodded. There was no need to use Articuno, just Entei will be fine. Thinking of this, Zahu walked to an open space and naturally released Entei. Flame. Entei? Zahu said it lightly, but Xiaomao was shocked. He looked at the Entei in front of him with an unbelievable expression and said, Brother Zahu, when did you capture Entei again? I just captured it the day before yesterday. This is the first time I use it to fight against others. You are very lucky, Zahu said with a smile. I don't know why, it seems that every time I capture a Pokémon, Xiaomao comes to challenge. Last time it was Articuno, this time it was Entei. Xiaomao laughed dryly. I would rather not have this luck. Okay, you attack first, Zahu said. Okay, Moon Elf, don't be afraid. Even if the opponent is Entei, it's nothing great. It's just a Pokémon. Don't be afraid. Xiaomao first encouraged the Moon Elf, and the Moon Elf nodded, suppressed the fear in her heart, and glared at Entei. As a Pokémon that evolves by intimacy, the intimacy value of the Moon Elf and Xiaomao is obviously very high. Zahu praised slightly. The intimacy is good, although this Moon Elf has just evolved, and its strength needs to be improved. Moon Elf, move at high speed, and get close to it, Xiaomao said. The Moon Elf nodded, exerted force on its four hooves, and came to the front of Yandy in an instant like a flash of lightning. Charge flame attack facing the fierce attack of the Moon Elf. Zahu didn't even raise his eyelids. Although the Moon Elf's strength is good, Xiaomao obviously cultivated it with care, but it is only at the elite level, and even has deviations, and is not at the same level as Yandy at all. Yandy's eyes became fierce, his mane fluttered, and blazing flames emerged from his whole body. He hit the Moon Elf first, and the Moon Elf cried out in pain and fell directly, turning into a circle of eyes. The Moon Elf has lost its ability to fight, and Yandy wins. Xiaojiro, who was acting as the referee, saw this scene, and made a helpless judgment. He didn't expect Xiaomao to lose so quickly, but as a referee, he still had to execute it fairly. Brother Zahu, I thought the gap in strength between us would narrow, but I didn't expect it to widen. Xiaomao took back the Moon Elf, and said with a hint of decadence. No, you are already very good. After all, you have only been traveling for a year, so you still have a lot of hope. Zahu encouraged him appropriately. He did not expect Entei to be so ruthless, and beat the Moon Elf directly. It was also his mistake. He had not commanded Entei to fight after he captured it, so he planned to let Entei come when there was a battle. In addition, he did not have many Pokémon in his hands. Now Zahu only has 8 Pokémon in his hands, including the 3 legendary birds, Lugia, Haxorus, Jenga, Golduck, and Entei. Sure enough, Ang and Lucario are now in the Oak Research Institute, and Professor Oak seems to be interested in studying them. Zahu also teleported there. Anyway, after placing Pokémon in the Oak Research Institute, their strength will be improved. Like Zyros, he is the best example. So Zahu simply sent out Entei. But he forgot that his Entei was the first Entei created by the Phoenix King, a real king level, even the top among the kings, plus his arrogant personality, he would not let up, so the battle was naturally one-sided. If I had known this would happen, I would have let Jenga come to practice, which would have helped me improve myself, instead of just bullying others pointlessly like now. Xiaomeo was frustrated, and he didn't feel any pleasure at all. Seeing this, Kona shook his head silently. In fact, the gap in strength was indeed narrowing, because from the beginning, Zahu had never used his main force to fight against Xiaozi and the others. Xiaomeo felt desperate now, only because he fought against Zahu's main force. Fortunately, Xiaomeo was also a rational person. He quickly cheered up and prepared for tomorrow's game. It is worth mentioning that during the process, Xiaozi's strong luck struck again. He accidentally met a Pokémon breeder, and then the breeder agreed to temporarily lend Xiaozi the skateboard he had used before, so Xiaozi prepared to participate in the game the next day. As for Sukyun, in Xiaozi's heart, Xiaomeo is definitely more important than Sukyun. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.